gals and guys. This is Michael Ferrari of Cinema to Meep. Welcome to the 15th bonus Patreon episode. 1-5. Here we are, and I'm with my good pal, Ara Alishan. Hey, Ara.
Hey, Meep. Thanks for having me back on, buddy.
Thank you for joining me on this Halloween adventure. I wanted to do horror, of course, for the Patreon in October, and we landed on very much horror with the, I guess, controversial sequels 4, 5, and 6 to Halloween. We're calling it the Thorn Trilogy. You can call it whatever you want.
Sure.
I like to think of it as a trilogy within the Halloween films, but you can look at it any way you want. We're not, we're not saying this is a definitive trilogy, but
yeah, we didn't come up with the label.
Sure. No, not at all. But that's what we're calling it for the podcast, and I'm glad you guys can join us. Thank you for supporting the show. So how are you doing? How's Halloween? How's your Halloween getting along, Ara?
Yeah, I'm doing great, bud. We're just doing the kind of festive Halloween time stuff with the family and with the wife. The wife's had to sit out of some stuff this year because she's expecting, but
that's right. Congratulations.
Other than that, we're still having a lot of fun. I'm still watching a lot of Halloween themed movies whenever I can, and we're doing stuff like Disneyland and Horror Nights, and today I went to like a pumpkin patch and a little Halloween festival at a recreation center. The good stuff, man. Just enjoying the season because it flies by way too fast.
It goes way too fast always. I'm enjoying Halloween this year. I mean, it's not quite the same. Like, we have a lot of stuff going on with, like, looking for a house. So usually our house is usually decked out, but they're like painting the house we're living in right now because they're going to sell it soon. So our house isn't quite festive. So Halloween kind of I feel like I dipped my toes into Halloween this year, but not quite putting it all the way out. I'm not quite all the way into the thick of Halloween because of that. It's not quite there, but I'm trying to celebrate it. We're watching a lot of horror movies, of course, for October, and I watch horror movies all year round, to be honest.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I like to just like amp it up a little bit, just to try to get a horror movie in like every day or every other day. So just kind of really, just feels great. I mean, it's the season here, of course, in the East Coast, and
man,
really,
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
It really
about
does
that part of it.
Feel like that already, which is great. The leaves changing colors, and they're falling everywhere. Just, I could see Laurie Strode just walking down our suburban streets, holding a pumpkin.
Oh man, yeah, that's awesome because it's been like 100 over here, and I'm dying. I miss having 4 seasons for sure.
I do like having seasons and celebrating that. In the original home of Haddonfield, people forget that the original homes to Crystal Lake are in New Jersey, as well as Haddonfield originated in New Jersey, with the birthplace of Deborah Hill. She was from Haddonfield, New Jersey, and she named Haddonfield after her town. Which happens to be a very cute town in New Jersey, which has a really good school system. So, and obviously they did well with Deborah Hill, who went on to become a pretty great producer and writer and partner for John Carpenter, who I always stress to give equal credit for the Halloween films, because without her input and without her writing, I think the film wouldn't be as memorable as it is, and happens to be my personal favorite horror movie of all time. It holds a real dear place in my heart, so I'm very thankful for Deborah Hill's involvement in that film, and then of course the sequels that they made, and then the sequels that we've gotten since, which are maybe all over the place, and we'll talk about some of them today, but it is what it is, and I enjoy them for what they are. So, so let's go pre Halloween 4, 5, and 6. So we had the original Halloween, which arguably, you know, is like one of the best horror films of all time. Certainly one of the most well-known horror films of all time. I know that you're a fan of Halloween 2.
Yep.
So it's safe to say it's one of our favorite sequels, follow-ups to a really great original film. And then, of course, Halloween 3, which I know divides people sharply.
Yeah,
I'm not quite. I think you're a big fan as well as Halloween 3. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but
yeah, no, I'd love to kind of chime in on the Thorn Trilogy, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's interesting because I think the Halloween franchise is it's unique in its like continuity. Right. And kind of like not just the continuity of like the story, but just kind of the way the movies came to be. And it's, I mean, the original Halloween is a masterpiece. It's a just as not good a film as you can ask for what it is. And it's kind of like hard to describe even just like how much I respect it and appreciate it and enjoy it still. It just kind of hits all the right notes. And it's funny because like kind of depending on your like personal preference, like, you know, you can even just kind of like end the franchise there and it's fine. Like it's perfect. It doesn't need to be a franchise. And that's, you know, that's what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill like originally intended. You know, it can just kind of be this single night and it works really well. But from there, it's like, if you're gonna get more, if it has to be a series, if it's gonna get a sequel, like I think Halloween 2 is like as good as you can ask for, and I really do love it. I think it's great. I think it's really clever how they kind of continue on the same night, and they do a really good job with that, kind of just recapturing that feel. And it's funny because, again, like I feel like the series could end there. And it would be fine. Like, it'd be perfect. Like, it didn't need anything more. And I feel like, again, like that's what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill intended again after being, like, kind of like contractually, like, obligated to come back and, produce another Halloween movie. And I think I guess what I'm getting at is I think it's kind of interesting when you look at it from there, because after Halloween 1 and 2, like either you can kind of pick up the series like 10 years later, like with Halloween 4, or you can like pick up the series after Halloween 2 like 20 years later with like Halloween H2O. Right. Or like now, like you can like go like 40 years later, you know, with like Halloween.
You could choose your own adventure, huh?
Yeah, it's become like a choose your own adventure franchise, which is like unique. Like I don't think we've really seen anything like that I can think of. And it's I like that. Like I kind of enjoy that because I'm not a person who gets like caught up on continuity and stuff like that. Like I like the movies I like, and it doesn't really have to make sense. It doesn't all have to fit together perfectly. Like I love Halloween 4, for example, and I love Halloween H2O, for example. I guess, it's fine. And I think it kind of makes the franchise more interesting in a way. Mm-hmm. And of course, you mentioned Halloween 3. Like, I'm not sure if this is controversial or not now. Like, it used to feel controversial because it's one of those movies I'd always be like defending, and I'd feel like I was kind of outnumbered or whatever. But kind of like I feel like opinions have changed about it over the years. And Halloween 3, I mean, that's honestly like not only my favorite like Halloween movie in the franchise, but it's probably like my favorite movie set around Halloween, like the holiday. Mm-hmm. So it's it really hits all the right notes for me. It's just a lot of fun and just really cool and just really captures the Halloween feel and spirit. And I mean, that's kind of like a trump card to me, like having that like kind of weird outlier in the franchise that gives it like an edge over other horror franchises that I love. because it's just this like little bonus that you get that is just like something completely different and just awesome in its own way. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of these movies. I'm a fan of the franchise. I mean, I can say with confidence, like I love, all three movies that came, before this, Thorn Trilogy, and I find this, the direction the franchise went at that time, interesting, like in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be a fun topic to kind of dive into and talk about, because honestly, like let's say we'd covered, Halloween 1, 2, and 3 instead. Like, what is there to say?
Mm-hmm.
It's just so. I think this is going to be a more interesting conversation. I hope. I think we're going to probably have some dissenting opinions about some of these, and probably like kind of view them differently for different reasons, and I love that. And they're weird and they're unique, and I think they deserve some attention. So I'm happy that we're going to be doing that tonight.
Yeah, same here. I mean, part of me wishes that they continued after Halloween 3 Season of the Witch with these standalone stories sans Michael Myers, because it would have been some interesting ways to go.
Yeah.
Provided that they kept the John Carpenter, Deborah Hill involvement. I feel like that was the key to making that work. And then, of course, Tommy Lee Wallace's direction in 3 was very good, so that helps.
Yes.
And he's kind of an underrated director of sequels for sure.
Yeah, very much.
So, yeah, it would have been interesting to see where if they kept them up. 3 didn't go as well financially for Universal, so they decided to stop making them, and of course the rights eventually went back to the producers, and then what, it was like 6 years later after Halloween 3 they decided to, okay, let's do another one. Let's pick up the original story line with Michael Myers, and of course adding a new dimension to it. So let's get into that. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
10 years ago, on the night of October 31st, a small Midwestern town fell victim to an escaped killer. Under the cover of darkness, he carried out the most horrifying mass murder on record. 16 people in cold blood. Ever since that night, no one has forgotten his name. And Halloween has never been the same. Now, Michael Myers has come home. He has returned for one more night of unholy terror.
Michael! Somebody help me!
He's here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way.
Oh, God!
Who's gonna be next?
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Maybe nobody knows how to stop him.
10 years ago, he changed the face of Halloween. Tonight, he's back. The most ghoulish mass murderer in history has been in a coma for 10 years. But tonight, he's awake, and Halloween has never been more terrifying. While being moved from a maximum security prison for the criminally insane, Michael Myers, the monstrous killer of Halloween 1 and 2, escapes. A trail of carnage leads Dr. Loomis, a medical professional all too familiar with Michael's case, to the small Illinois town that was the scene of Michael's ghastly crimes in the past. There, surrounded by murder and destruction, plunged into darkness by a power failure, left with virtually no hope of rescue, 2 young women find themselves trapped in their own home. Wow, I never noticed how inaccurate that part was. 2 young women find themselves trapped in their own home, stalked by the most dangerous creature alive. the latest installment in the most popular horror series in Hollywood history. Halloween 4 may very well be the most nightmarish of all. And that is courtesy of the synopsis on the CBS Fox video VHS release. So I love what you were kind of touching on there right before we jumped into this entry. And it's kind of perfect because it touches on something that I wanted to talk about as well. And that's my like complicated relationship with Halloween 4. I have like kind of a weird history with the movie where I kind of like, I guess I blame the whole continuity and the issues we were talking about before, but I kind of resented the movie for a long time because it was here that, you know, John Carpenter was kind of, you know, my favorite director of all time, was kind of like pushed to the curb, and the producers followed, you know, the masses, you know, desire to have more of the same, and, you know, kind of return the series to the status quo. And, you know, it just, there's so many reasons why that would rub me the wrong way. You know, I mean, you've got the John Carpenter element, you've got the fact that I love Halloween 3 so much, and I still can't get over the fact that it was rejected the way it was. And it's also, again, like, I mean, for years I was kind of like a little bit pretentious about the Halloween franchise, to where I didn't even think you needed a sequel from the first Halloween. I was like, oh no, it's perfect. Like the ending is perfect. And I kind of like would thumb my nose at Halloween 2 even. But I came around with Halloween 2. I was like, oh, this movie's awesome. You know, this is great. And that took a lot. And again, I kind of did the same thing. I drew a line in the sand and was like, okay, well, this is where it ends. You know, what there's no need for Halloween 4. There's no reason for Halloween 4. Like, this movie shouldn't even exist. We could have gotten like a bunch of more like, you know, John Carpenter inspired, Deborah Hill inspired Halloween themed movies, and like, oh man, the world would have been, you know, better off for it, but who knows. So anyways, I'm saying all of that just to kind of explain, like, I didn't really give this movie a chance for a long time. I'd seen them all growing up, but I just kind of like, you know, forgot about these ones. I was like, I don't, you know, they're not for me. I don't really need to watch these again. I got the good ones. I have my favorite ones, you know. So it's interesting because what actually brought me back to Halloween 4 was, as I got like older and a little bit more into like directors and kind of looking up like who made certain movies while I'm watching them and see what else they made. So like I noticed that Halloween 4 was made by Dwight H. Little, I guess, who directed like Phantom of the Opera, which I love, with Jill Schoelen and Robert Englund, Marked for Death, which is probably like my favorite Steven Seagal movie, Rapid Fire with like Brandon Lee and Powers Booth, and which I love. And like I just was like, wow, you know, it's this guy, okay, you know. It's like right around that same time period too. So I guess because of that, at some point I decided, all right, you know, I'm gonna watch Halloween 4 again. They show those movies like all the time around Halloween time, so you know, I'll give it a shot and kind of see how it goes. And I loved it. Surprisingly, I loved it. So I guess that's a really long way to kind of go about explaining that I resented this movie and kind of like denied myself the enjoyment of like a good Halloween sequel and a good late 80s slasher. And it's, you know, it's now probably one of my favorites. So I do have a lot of thoughts about the movie and a lot of things about the specifics of what I like and what I think works. But I am curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Meep.
Yeah, going into Halloween 4, I guess I was ready for a sequel. I'm ready for Michael Myers returning. Although, as much as I loved Halloween 3, I thought it really, you know, that really scared me. Seeing that in the movie theater.
Sure.
Halloween 3 scared me more than seeing Halloween 1 in a movie theater as a really small child. It's just something about it, like especially of course the famous scene where the kid's head is melted with the bugs coming out of it. That definitely that combination of that scene and the scene in Creepshow with the bugs really gave me my bug phobia growing up.
Oh, dude, yeah, I can see that.
I had like a love and resentment too with Halloween 3 because it really messed with me, really scared me. So going to Halloween 4, maybe I was a little bit grateful as a kid, as a 13-year-old kid, going to see this movie in the theater. This is Return to Michael Myers, and the trailer was good, and it's kind of like, he's back, and I get more of what they gave us with Halloween 1, right? And that was the template, of course, for this film. Like, return it back to the original storyline in a way. Like, just try to get it back to basics, right? Get it back to Michael Myers, put it in a suburban town, even though it wasn't quite that, and then have him go after these people and these characters that you're supposed to like a lot and sympathize with, and it definitely was that growing up, and I really enjoyed seeing this in the theater and then on home video, the CBX Fox home video. So it got a lot of play for me. I thought it was very enjoyable, and I liked it a lot. I liked a lot of elements in it. I liked Danielle Harris's character. I liked that there was a little girl as kind of the central character in the film. I think that was kind of an interesting way to go. I remember liking Rachel then as a character, and thinking she was kind of cute. So having a bit of a crush on her, even though she had bad mom genes. And yeah, just kind of like it felt like a cozy movie about I just happened to have Michael Myers in it. So there was elements of it that appealed to me and appealed to my need for slasher movies, especially of that time. It was giving me the slashing. It was giving me some decent character stuff, and of course Donald Pleasance returning as Loomis was a big deal for me, and throughout the series, anytime he showed up in these films, I was happy because I think Dr. Loomis as a character is an interesting character and so well played by Donald Pleasance. And he has some stuff to do in this one, but I think he has more stuff to do in the subsequent sequel. But I do like him here, and I like that after all this time, he's still on the hunt. Yeah. And
it's interesting to hear you say that. Yeah.
I do like him more in the next one, but I'll get to that to those reasons why in that one. But I didn't like his makeup in this one. I think they didn't want to fully commit to the ideas of part 2. I think the producers have said that they don't really want to acknowledge part 2 as true continuity. So that's part of why his makeup, his scars from the fire explosion aren't as elaborate as they should have been. You can kind of see, and like you see watching it on Blu-ray, you can kind of see like you can kind of see the makeup and just you really see the effect. It's like really feels really cheap and just kind of not quite as good as the sequels that come after that. So I was a little bit distracted watching it on Blu-ray. Like, oh yeah, like that looks pretty. I guess I bought into it more back then when it was on home video, of course. But now on Blu-ray, you can see everything. So yeah, I like him. I think the best scene in the movie, honestly, is the scene without Michael Myers. Is the scene of you're probably going to know which scene I'm going to talk about. Is the drunk preacher scene with Carmen Phillippe and Donald Pleasance in the.
Reverend
he picks him up. This is after poor Donald Pleasance gets kicked to the curb by these teenagers who don't pick him up, and gets dust blown into him on the very, very dusty streets of Haddonfield. This is one of the dustiest movies ever made. The reason for that is because it was filmed in Salt Lake City, and Salt Lake City well since you're from there. You've lived there for a part chunk of your life. So
yeah, my hometown,
your hometown, and so I've been distracted by that fact that it was not quite Haddonfield for for these last 30 years. Part of that takes me a little bit out of the movie because it doesn't feel like the, of course, fake Haddonfield of the first one, the Pasadena lensed.
Yeah, which is so funny. Yeah, I don't know. Because now that's like 5 minutes from where I live now. So.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's like a big jump in terms of the look and feel to me. I mean, it sets up Halloween pretty good in the opening credits, of course, which I really like the opening credits of 4 and 5. I think they're pretty great, and they establish a mood in a really good way. But the look of 4 just doesn't quite. It's quite off for me. It doesn't quite feel like Haddonfield. But I do like this also, but I also like the small townish vibe. I like Vincent Drugstore. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the characters to some degree. It's Rachel's kind of like more of the front and center character, other than Jamie, and she spends a lot of her time with boy troubles, and she has bad taste in boys, as we've learned in this movie, where she's after Brady, but Brady, he has eyes for Kelly, for Kelly Meeker. And then she finds out the hard way. So she spends a lot of time being the put upon big sister, sort of, to Jamie, and then eventually has to, she has to, I guess, begrudgingly, she takes Jamie trick-or-treating, and then, of course, ends up, finding Brady with Kelly Meeker at her house. So, yeah, I like that. In a way, there's like a teen drama in the middle of it, but at the same time, I don't know, I'm not as quite engaged. Something was a little bit off for me in that. I don't know why, but I do like Kelly Meeker as a character. I think she's fun. I think I love her cops do it by the book shirt. It's a fun, weird kind of thing to throw in there. Recently, I'm like, why is she wearing that shirt? Like, is it her father's shirt? And if it is it her father's shirt? That's really weird too. Like, how does she know exactly the cops like to do it by the book? I want more answers, but of course, poor bitchy Kelly gets impaled by a rifle. And a pretty good death scene, and he has a pretty good body count, and Michael's kind of crafty. He's a little bit different in this movie. I feel like he's a little like he hitches rides, right? Doesn't he like get in the back of the police car?
No, he climbs onto the back of the truck.
Yeah, but there's like the scene where he's like there's a lot of like back and forth in this movie in a police car. I feel like he goes into the back of the police car.
He does. He hides in the back of the deputy's car.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this movie.
To get back to the sheriff's house, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of like him doing stuff like that in this movie, which is a little weird to me. I don't know why there's a lot of that. There's a lot of scenes of cops going to houses and a little too much cop stuff in this movie, which isn't maybe why it brings it down a little bit for me. Because I'm not big on like cops in movies in general.
It's funny. Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah, it feels like there's a good chunk of that in this movie, and so it kind of gets a little bit boring. A little bit boring for me. I saw it in the theater like a couple of years ago, and I remember getting a little bit pretty bored during those scenes, like kind of tuning out a little bit. But then when Loomis shows up on the screen, I'm happy, and maybe the drama of the Kelly and Brady thing and Rachel, that I was a little bit more interested. But I was getting in spots I get a little bit bored with this film. I have to be honest, completely honest about it. But I still do enjoy it. I still do like it. I like Michael Pataki as Dr. Hoffman earlier in the film. I like Bo Starr as Sheriff Meeker. I think he's a pretty good stand-in, I guess, for Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah, he's good.
I always wondered what happened to Sheriff Brackett after two. I guess
retired in Florida. I think.
Yeah, they kind of like a throwaway comment about that. I guess we're going to see a return of Sheriff Brackett in the latest Halloween film, which makes me wonder. He's probably pretty old, so he's still like a sheriff of Haddonfield, like retired, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I don't know, man.
Oh, the other thing I don't like about this movie are the scenes of the rednecks. I mean, I think that's another point of contention for some people too. I don't know, just something about rednecks and Haddonfield. Something doesn't quite jive for me. I don't know. I'm sure there are in this, in this fictional,
it's like kind of like a random good old boys like posse.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an excuse to have more body count, I guess. Because it doesn't really go anywhere. Really, they kill someone accidentally.
Oh man!
And
I get a real big kick out of them. I gotta jump in there because the fact that he could climb onto the back of that truck and like throw like 3 of them off without the ones in front of them like noticing each time. I don't know. It's worth it to me just for that.
Yeah, you hear something? I don't know. It's like what? It's a little odd.
And it's just this little bed of a truck. Like, it's not a whole lot of space to work with.
Yeah, he's very crafty in Halloween 4. He's crafty in 5 too, but I think he's especially crafty in 4. Michael Myers.
He is, and he also kills a lot of people with his bare hands in this one, which is different. That's true. Yeah, there are some differences for sure with Michael in this one. I think you're onto something there. What do you just out of curiosity? So you mentioned you weren't big on Loomis's look. Which I liked it. I don't know. I'll look at it a little differently next time just to kind of see if anything catches my eye. But I always thought Loomis looked cool in this movie, considering the fire. But what did you think of Michael's like bandaged look? Because I thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah, part of me wishes he was just like that the whole movie.
Yeah,
that would have been scary. It's
a cool, scary look, and he's all burned like on the parts you can see, and his face is just all bandaged up. You could just kind of like see where his eyes are, but you can't really see his eyes. Like I don't know, man. I think it's pretty effective.
Given like all the issues with the mask in this movie, they really should have just kept the bandage look.
Well, all right. I'll reserve my comments about the mask.
No, let's get into it.
Because I think this mask is perfect compared to what we're gonna get.
Oh yeah, there's definitely issues in the masks of like.
I'm not sure how I feel about the scene where he just suddenly has blonde hair, like at the schoolhouse. In this one.
Yes, but, even as a kid, I was like confused by that scene.
Me too. Like I always thought I was seeing things. I was like, did he get dirty? Like, did something happen?
Right.
Like, I just thought I missed something.
Like
there.
a ceiling fell onto him, and like
yeah, exactly. Like some kind of powder. Or something. Yeah,
it was very weird.
Well, it's all that dust. It's a real dusty,
very dusty
Haddonfield. It's funny that you mentioned the dust and stuff because, look, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I wouldn't describe it as dusty, but I do think like the whole road to Haddonfield that they show here, and like the diner and the gas station, like I love it. Like I think those scenes have kind of like become like iconic to me. Whereas someone who used to just kind of not care about this movie and think it's like. Like on par with like a Children of the Corn sequel or something, like as like dismissible a sequel as you can think of, whatever, all those like straight to video like franchises. But like, these scenes have like become like iconic to me, like they really have. And it's funny because I want to say it was last year, but I mentioned like how we go to like Halloween Horror Nights like every year out here at Universal Studios, and they do a really good job, like because it's a movie studio, the people that make them, like compared to like other haunted houses and attractions, like they really like go into details and like recreating like scenes from movies and like sets from movies and stuff like that. And they did one surprisingly for Halloween 4, which I would have never expected. They'd done Halloween 1 and 2 before, but I never would have expected a Halloween 4 one. And it was like super dusty. I remember like in that diner, it was like really dusty and dark and so, and it was just like perfect. So when I hear you kind of like, I don't think it quite registered, but when I hear you talk about the movie that way, I'm like, man, it was dusty. And I don't know, I guess that all just kind of adds to that charm of that road and those interactions and that whole journey that Dr. Loomis goes on just to get to Haddonfield. And I do love, Reverend Sayer. I think that's a great character. I think that's the kind of charm that you don't see in a lot of movies. Just like something random like that.
Yeah.
It just gives, it's like a little extra treat. You get the rest of the movie, but here's like a little bonus.
Yeah, that scene would have never even been filmed. It would have been cut out of the script, probably. Yeah,
exactly. Like someone would have read that script and been like, "Huh? Like, what's the deal with this guy?" Like, yeah, that can go.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I love that, and honestly, like I do, like I was saying, like the scenes have become the settings, I guess, like the different like set pieces and places they go have become like iconic to me, like the gas station, like the diner, like I think even the beginning, that like the whole like stormy night, like federal penitentiary, mental hospital setting is great. It's really atmospheric. I really like I should have looked it up. I like the performance of that the guard that like greets the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really fun.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like the scenes, like the schoolhouse, the sheriff's house with the rooftop and all that stuff that kind of comes later. Like it's not just the places they go, but it's also the characters for me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's funny because I feel like I'm always like off for whatever reason. Like I hated this movie while other people were probably talking good about it. And like now that I love it, I feel like everyone I know like doesn't really care for it. And it's like I'm just always like missing it somehow.
And you're appreciating it on your own. That's the best thing about movies. Like you can love something. You can love things that people hate and hate things that people love. It's
absolutely.
Like,
and I love that. That's true, and that's totally part of it. And it's just funny how it kind of works out. And it's like now, like I think the characters in this one have become iconic to me too. Like not just Jamie, who I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
Danielle Harris is awesome. I can't even imagine if they'd gone with Melissa Joan Hart, who was supposedly up for the part. Like I just can't picture that. I think that would have been really interesting. But I love Danielle Harris. I've always loved her, even though I wasn't a fan of these movies. I always loved her just because of The Last Boy Scout. Anyways, and I actually, you mentioned, Rachel. Like I had a crush on Rachel too. So I loved Rachel. I thought she was great. She's not like a final girl. She's more like a protector for Jamie, which is kind of interesting because she's still, she's not a match for Michael, but I think she's really heroic and a really cool character. I like her a lot. I feel like she's kind of forgotten, and I'm not really a fan of how she's treated going forward, which is something we could talk about for sure. But I was a fan, and again, like I thought she was cute. What do I know? But how much that affects when you're younger. But I thought she was a cool character and a good sister. What more can you ask for? And the other characters too. Like I thought Sheriff Meeker was great. I thought Kelly Meeker was great. I thought Brady was like a great like slasher movie character. Like I'm not saying like I liked him, but
glad when he dies.
Yeah, like he's like the kind of person like that you want to see in a slasher movie. Like he's a very memorable character. He's got like kind of a unique look, I guess, like a nice way of saying it, and like like a heartthrob, that these girls are like fighting over. And he has like his heroic moment,
right?
Which is nice. Like they're not like one-dimensional characters. Like he's a decent guy at the end of the day. He's just a teenager whose girl like canceled plans with him, and he kind of tried to jump on the next best thing, which is not admirable, but it's kind of realistic. And I did love like the whole like Vincent drug thing, like Wade. I don't know. I should have looked up who played Wade, but I think Wade was fun. As a character, like, which is surprising that nothing comes from that. We don't see him again.
Yeah, it's like she has a friend, she has a best friend, he has a friend, but they're not victims, which is usually in these movies they would be the victims.
She's got Lindsay who shows up too. That's right. I forgot about her.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that you were saying like you don't feel like Dr. Loomis had as much to do in this one, because I feel like this was kind of his show. And maybe it's just because the whole like road to Haddonfield and the whole like scenes he goes through, kind of investigating the crash and going to the gas station and then going to the sheriff's station and everything from there. Like that stuff maybe stands out in my memory more, and like I feel like he's like the hero of this movie. Maybe like there's some things he does in the next movie that are questionable to me or like confusing to me, but maybe like jumps the shark a little bit. But like I feel like here is like almost there. Like there's like some hysterics and stuff, but it's consistent with like what we got from him in the Halloween 1 and 2 anyways. So I like him a lot in this. But I was gonna say like my like MVP of this movie, who I hope you still have this prop that I could have sworn you had a picture wearing this before, but it's Bucky. Yes. And I could have sworn you had that power
I have
plant.
the helmet. Yeah, I made a helmet with Bucky.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. And
I went to a Halloween 4 screening.
That's awesome!
With wearing the Bucky helmet, yeah.
Because I love Bucky. I love that character. I love how like tough he thinks he is.
Yeah.
I just love that scene. I love that Michael like goes to like the power plant. He's like, all right, this time like I'm gonna like shut this whole like city down basically.
Yeah, that's part of his craftiness of this movie. Like,
it's so weird.
He takes down the electricity and the phone lines in this movie.
It's so it's like Machiavellian or something. Like I just don't like. Last time he just kind of drove back into town and started doing his thing. Like and like Halloween 1, I don't remember who described it this way, maybe. But it's the description's kind of stuck in my head. It's almost like he's just like a shark, like on the prowl, like,
right.
And it just kind of happens. What happens. And then Halloween 2, okay, they had to come up with like justification for why would he go after this girl again, yada yada yada. Kind of adding more backstory and stuff like that. But like this one, it's like no, he was fine, just like being like. Catatonic, I guess. Like I don't know how to describe it. He was just like in this like stasis until like someone mentioned he has a niece, and then all of a sudden he has like this like
that's it.
It's like he snaps into action. Kills the people transporting him. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry, I got to stop there for a second. I can't tell you how much like joy it brings me, even though it should be like something that's frustrating. Like I just love the fact that this guy is always transported the day before Halloween. like the guy who like killed his sister on Halloween and then escapes when you're gonna transport him like the day before Halloween is once again scheduled to be transported the day before Halloween. and I haven't rewatched the last Halloween movie, but I'm pretty sure it was the same thing again, which I really get a kick out of. I don't know, that's just something I threw myself off track there, but I just had to mention that I love that. It's just something about this movie that makes me laugh. I do think, like, don't get me wrong, I think this movie's pretty silly. But I also think like Halloween 2 is pretty silly, and like they're silly in like all the right ways,
right?
Like there's just there's a certain tone that these movies can find that just like kind of hits a sweet spot, and this is this is in that sweet spot for me. So I've heard it kind of described as like kind of more boring or like paint by numbers compared to like Halloween 5, for example, which is I don't want to jump ahead, but like. I don't know. I just don't see it. Like to me, like this is a fun, silly slasher, and like the redneck characters, for example, kind of add to that. Like Kelly adds to that. Reverend Sayer adds to that. Bucky adds to that. Like it's just a fun, kind of silly late '80s slasher, and I don't know. Again though, like I do kind of disagree a little bit with Dr. Loomis because I think this is like his last like great performance in the franchise. It's not his fault, but I'm just not as big a fan of where the character goes from here. And I didn't jot this down in my notes or anything. I'm just trying to go from memory here, and I don't want to jump ahead. But you mentioned the makeup thing in Halloween 6. didn't they just do no makeup and
Yeah.
he says something about
Yeah.
having surgery? Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't imagining that.
No, yeah.
So, okay,
There's a line,
Alright,
and
yeah.
they went on their way in Halloween 6 to explain that, which is like, okay.
Yeah, he just decided he didn't want like people looking at him or getting scared or when they look at him or something, and got a skin graft. But okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure.
Halloween 4 has a little makeup. Halloween 5 is much more elaborate.
Sure,
More
sure. I got to notice
photorealistic. And 6, yeah, 6. It's he's
Sure.
bearded.
But yeah. So I don't know. I feel like we're kind of jumping around a little bit.
I
on
love
this
that you
book.
love this movie. That's for sure.
It's weird though, because I'm telling you, it's like I remember like reading like I don't know what sites or what articles or whatever, and like people would mention Halloween 4 as like the best Michael Myers sequel or one of the best sequels and stuff, and I was always like scoffing at it, like, oh, that movie, are you kidding me? That one that John Carpenter had nothing to do with, like, come on, you know? And like now, I feel like that's like nowhere to be seen. At least not in like my circle.
Well,
like
for the
I feel
longest
like
time, 4 was treated really in high regard for as one of the sequels.
And I miss.
I think
that.
it's changed a bit in the last maybe the last 10 years. It's not as been
Yeah,
it's not as mentioned as much, but
I feel
certainly
like
remember
it's
that
so
growing
weird. Like I missed the boat on that, and now like now people don't really like it, and like I love it, and it's so random. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a contrarian or whatever, but I'm glad you mentioned the opening because I do love that opening. I think that might be my favorite opening in the whole franchise. Just those it's not just the visuals, but the visuals of like kind of the like I guess it's like I'm trying to think of how to describe it. I guess it's like farms and stuff like that, like maybe on the outskirts of Haddonfield with just like Halloween decorations here and there, just like those little signs of the season. With the music though, the music I think is great. And I think I should have wrote it down, but it's Alan
Howarth.
Howard, yes,
he did the music for the previous film. So yeah,
he's a John Carpenter collaborator, and you know he like got his blessing even to come back to the franchise with this one, and I think he correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he scored all 3 of these.
Yes, he did.
But his score here is so good, and like I love that like opening, like it's its own like really low key kind of spooky like tone, and it just kind of like gradually like turns into the Halloween theme in its own way, and like I don't know, I love that opening, and I think when I finally rewatched this movie, I was sold from like the first minute, which I shouldn't be that easy, but that was like enough for me. Like I was just like, wow, that was awesome. Like that was the opening credits. And like the music was good, and that like those visuals were like so perfect. Like maybe it struck a note with me, like you know my Halloweens in the '80s growing up in Salt Lake City. I don't know, but it was it just really sets the tone. And again, from there, it's not like you have this like spooky movie necessarily. It gets pretty silly, but it's all the right kind of silly for me.
Gotcha.
Oh, and you know, we didn't even talk about the ending, because the ending is like, I can't say it's my favorite ending in the franchise, because you have Halloween 3, you have the first Halloween. Gosh, even Halloween 2 I think is kind of great, because I get a kick out of like how definitively John Carpenter tried to end the franchise.
It's like, what more do you want?
And Deborah Hill, you know, it was like, I don't know what else they could have done. But I mean, God, after H2O, I think we know that there's no and Resurrection, I guess there's no way he could have.
He's never dying.
Yeah, there's no way. There's nothing he could have done that would have stopped them from going back. But I mean, I love all these endings, but Halloween 4 is like one of my favorite like slasher movie endings, and I think it's really good for like kind of like a standalone movie, or like a movie that's just kind of like we're gonna stop this part of the story here, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's kind of a bad way to set up a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Because where could they have gone from there? So I don't know. I guess. Well, maybe on that note, we can.
Well, no, they went there.
Yeah, maybe we can.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't a big a fan of that ending. I mean, I feel like I don't know. It wasn't enough for me. Like for Michael to be buried in there, and then like them like throwing dynamite into it. It seemed a little silly to me. Like,
well, I don't think they throw dynamite in this ending. I think that's something we see in 5. I don't remember
really?
that. I think
okay.
So. I could be wrong, but
I feel like they like shoot him up. He
they
falls
shoot him
into
and
the
he falls
hole,
in
and
the
then they throw a stick of dynamite in there, and then like,
Yeah.
where'd the dynamite come from? One, and then
No, the dynamite. I'm pretty sure. I got to go back, but I'm pretty sure that's
Okay.
from part 5. But I agree that like as far as what they did with Michael, like that could have been a lot more interesting. They could have found a better way to kind of kill him off or do something.
I think they knew what they were doing. They
I think so too. They left that
room,
wide open with, he got shot a few times and fell down a hole. Like compared to how part 2 ended, which we just mentioned, like that's like nothing. Like this guy's gonna walk that off like no problem.
Exactly.
So I agree. Like that's not the part of the ending that I love. I guess I just love the whole Jamie in the clown costume to begin with, but I just love the visual where it goes. I love Donald Pleasance's reaction.
Yeah, that's a great. That is a great ending. That part of it.
Standing at the top of the stairs, like that's the part that just is like a holy shit moment for me. Excuse my language. That I just really enjoy. And I mean, I guess it's kind of random, and I don't know. But
well, they were trying to tie it back to the first film, like they were doing a lot.
Yeah,
in this movie, I think they were just trying to really connect it to the first film and keep it on brand.
Yeah, and this movie, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say this movie was written like I think like 5 minutes before like a writer's strike happened. So I kind of give it a break.
Yeah.
Not even a break because like I don't have any issues with it really, but like I give it like bonus points I think for kind of being as good as it is on that end too because. I don't know. I guess I have more thoughts that we can kind of get into, like as we kind of see like what happens from here.
Yeah, we can move on. But I'll read off some of the business. It was released on October 21st, 1988. Sure. It was an independent film, so they set up a company, Trancas Galaxy. To release it, it made $17.7 million. So it wasn't like a huge hit like the first 2 films, but it certainly made money for them. Considering it was a smaller budget, it was like a $5 million budget. It was directed by Dwight Little, like you mentioned, who made Phantom of the Opera, as well as Marked for Death, which Danielle Harris starred in as Steven Seagal's daughter. He also made Rapid Fire. It was written by Alan McElroy,
those movies are so good. Sorry, I just gotta say that.
I'm a big fan of Rapid Fire, and I like Marked for Death.
Keith David's in that one too. Actually, speaking of Carpenter ties, sorry, I'll let you continue.
I forgot about that too. Written by Alan McElroy, who wrote another slasher favorite of mine, Wrong Turn, which is currently being remade as we speak.
What?
I think they just completed it.
I had no idea. Sheesh.
Of course.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Who knows if it'll be a revisionist remake or what, but it's being remade. And I guess 15 deaths in the film. George P. Wilbur played the Shape. He was one of the only Halloween Shape actors to repeat the role, I guess, until the Halloween reboot. He was the Shape in 4 and 6. And what's your favorite kill in the film?
Oh man, that's a good question. My favorite kill in this film, because he does. He puts his thumb through someone's head and does some pretty out of character stuff in this one. Gosh, maybe. It might be Bucky.
Bucky's pretty good.
I don't know. It's not very slasher-like.
No, it's not.
It just stands out.
It's very crafty.
I would have loved to see him take down the sheriff's station. I wonder how that works.
The next movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite would probably be the thumb through the forehead in the beginning because that really kind of sets off the tone.
It's really good, and then the effect is really good.
And of course, I like when Kelly Meeker is impaled by the gun. That's kind of I don't know how the gun could actually impale her to the door, whatever. But it's a good visual. So those are my favorites.
Yeah, I think those are all great picks. I could kind of go with either of those as well.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back right after this.
Romeo, 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 Romeo. When we first met up, we started off all wrong. And your pace was just too fast for hanging on. So you left me cold and lonely while you were out there on the run. You were a heartbreaker, baby, breaking them just for fun. Now here you come again, saying get back in the ring for another bout. This time I think I can do without Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. Pack up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new Romeo. Now you call me on the line to tell me that you've changed, but I know that it's just a game you Romeos play. 'Cause I've fallen once before into the same routine. Then you hit me with your eyes and talk your way clean. Oh, you're coming on so sweet, but it's only skin deep as the saying goes. And this shows a tragedy, don't you know? Romeo, Romeo, gotta go. Romeo, this Juliet, she don't live here no more. Pack up your things, head back out the window. I'm looking around for a new
Hope you enjoyed that. I think that song is perfect for what's to come next. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Help me now.
We both know he's alive, but you know where he is.
Halloween 5. This time, they're ready. This time, he's unmasked. And this time, he's back with a vengeance. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
So the citizens of Haddonfield, Illinois, are about to endure the revenge of Michael Myers. Following her mysterious behavior at the conclusion of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, young Jamie, Danielle Harris, is committed to the psychiatric care of Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance. Meanwhile, Michael Myers is presumed dead following a shootout with the Haddonfield police. I like that it's described as a shootout because it kind of makes it sound like he was shooting back.
Oh, yeah.
And a fatal fall down a mine shaft entrance. But all is not as it seems. A well-meaning derelict... Sorry. A well-meaning derelict nurses Michael back to health. And 1 year later, he is back to kill again. Jamie finds herself the object of Michael's murderous rage. And along with new friends and Dr. Loomis, she tries to prevent Michael from continuing his bloody rampage. However, there's a new visitor in town. And by the way, so right after it says Michael from continuing his bloody rampage, there's a space, almost like they just decided to add a paragraph, almost like they just decided to add a subplot. But I digress. However, there's a new visitor in town, a man dressed in black, who quietly walks the streets with an unknown but sinister purpose. Why is he here? What is his connection to Michael? By the end of Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, many will be dead, and you will be screaming. So that is the VHS description from the Anchor Bay VHS for Halloween 5.
It's funny because I just pulled up one for the CBS Fox video.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to have two descriptions for this one.
Oh, nice.
The petrifying specter of Michael Myers shatters Haddonfield once again in this fifth Halloween shocker that picks up where Halloween 4 ended. Michael's niece, 9-year-old Jamie, now has a telepathic bond with her uncle. Though she is unable to speak, she knows where and when he will strike again. Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, hopes to use Jamie's ability to finally stop a demonic killer. But Michael remains as elusive as ever as he embarks on another savage murder spree, filling each new victim with heart-stopping terror before he strikes. Racing from one unnervingly tense scene to another, and featuring the climactic moment when Michael takes off his mask, Halloween 5 is a masterpiece of modern horror in the true Halloween tradition. Don't watch it alone. That was a CBS Fox video.
Oh, that's great.
So I love both descriptors for these films, for this fine film.
Sure. Well, yours 5 didn't mention the well-intentioned derelict.
No, that's pretty classic. that poor guy.
No, but I really like that description. That was solid.
So as we know, Michael, he stays for a year in this underground lair by this derelict of sorts. It's well-intentioned.
Yeah, I guess a hermit.
I guess a hermit. I guess so.
Yeah.
He's nursing this guy for a whole year, and then of course Michael. It's Halloween. So he wakes up and kills him and starts chasing after poor Jamie once again. That's the true formula of Halloween, right? He's just not going to stop, right? He has his eyes on the prize, and he's going to get it no matter what. And yeah, so begins Halloween 5, and I saw this in the theater, like Halloween 4 and all the rest of them in the theater, and I was so ready for Halloween 5, even though it was just a year later.
Sure.
I loved that I was getting all these horror sequels, and so like every year I felt like there was a Nightmare on Elm Street every year, there was a Friday the 13th every year, there was a Halloween coming every year. I was so happy down in the late 80s having all these horror sequels, and here I was getting more of Michael Myers. Arguably at the time was probably my favorite of those guys, even though I've kind of changed my opinion on that for sure. I feel like I've grown to be more attached to the Friday the 13th films and the Nightmare on Elm Street films more than the Halloween films, because I think a little bit all over the place in terms of what I like and don't like about them. But I think I was definitely more attached to the Halloween films and Michael Myers as a killer in general.
Sure.
Maybe because I was named because I'm Michael myself, and I had a special attachment to that. But something about Michael Myers always drew me in. Maybe because my love for the first film is so strong, and still remains that way. Something about that. But yeah, I was ready for it, and and it gave me what I wanted at the time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as a teen slasher movie, as a continuation of this Michael Myers saga. Leaving, it's like it does what Halloween 2 does. It picks up exactly where it leaves off, right? And this one, of course, he gets out and he escapes his intended, I guess, burial spot by the town of Haddonfield, and he escapes, and then he is revived somehow 1 year later and goes back to Haddonfield and does his thing. But I was really into that idea of him coming back and going after poor Jamie, this time who has more of a psychic link with him. And this is where the Thorn business starts starts coming to play as we learn that Michael Myers has this tattoo on his wrist of a thorn. And
we see it for the first time when he wakes up, I guess, right? Or when he's
so they're establishing it pretty quickly that there's something up, and that there's this mysterious man in black who would thread throughout the film. And so, like, I was into that. There was this new element, right?
Sure.
To the series, and like, it's giving it another level, another dimension, which is kind of cool. And I like that Jamie was the central character in this film, here playing mute because of everything that happened to her in the fourth film, and the ending of the fourth film, of course, where she stabs her foster mother. And we're assuming everything's okay with that. They're cool now with each other. Everything's cool with that. But she has some problems, of course, and she's again finds herself being stalked by this madman who wants to kill his niece and
Uncle Boogeyman.
Uncle Boogeyman,
which I think she calls him at one point.
That's pretty cool. And so it establishes his characters pretty early. We have return of Rachel and her friends, Tina, of course, and Samantha and Spitz. And so it sets off like a teen cast pretty early, which was pretty popular at the time, having more of a teens front and center in a movie rather than side characters. Maybe that they were a little bit more of side characters in the fourth one, where the adults were kind of more in the forefront. Although that movie kind of shared a bit of it. That was kind of a bit of a teen slasher as well. Here they're a bit more prominent. They have more screen time. Loomis, of course, is still on the hunt for Michael, and he's as mad as ever. And that's kind of what I like about this movie. I know we'll have dissenting opinions about this, but I like where Loomis's character goes in this movie. I like how obsessed he is. This is part 5, so he's like, this is like 20. How many years later now? It's like 11 years after the first movie.
That's a good point. At this point, if people aren't listening to him, I think,
I don't know how many years after he initially like saw Michael and has been dealing with Michael since a little boy. So he's like, he's gone through hell, literally, and almost literally, and he's crazy, and he wants to stop this guy at all costs, and so he doesn't, and maybe not the best ways, as we learn in this film. We could talk about that a little bit later, but I kind of like that it has that dimension, because you still like Loomis, you're still on his journey, but he does take things a bit far, which I like, because it's like taking a little bit of a risk with the character. And I think that's kind of cool. And I think that's part of what attracted Donald Pleasance to the character. I think there was an extra little level there for him to play on. I like his determination in 4, but here he has a little bit of a level where he's like kind of playing someone who's possibly going insane himself.
Yes.
Which I think is really cool. And I think that's something that fits into the series for me. Mm-hmm. I feel like they could have even taken it further in 6, but of course they kind of don't do that. He's like retired.
Yeah, they kind of dial it back, I guess.
Yeah, and I wanted him to be crazy. I wanted like crazy chases crazy. Maybe that's the true way to kill Michael Myers. You have to be fucking crazy.
He could have just been locked up at Smith's Grove or something. They honestly could have gone there if they wanted to.
That would have been a great way to begin Halloween 6. And I'm on record for being a huge fan of Tina. I think you guys have known that. I could probably like sing Tina's praises all night. You may hate me for saying that, so I probably won't do that. But I started a Friends of Tina Tumblr account at some point because I'm a huge fan of Tina.
How did I miss that? Oh my gosh, amazing.
And Wendy Kaplan, now Wendy Foxworth, I think really embodies this idea of a very bubbly teenager who cares about, just what a lot of teenagers are like. You just care about having fun, and you're in your own world, you're in your own bubble, and and you're not quite thinking about like anything quite serious. And she like literally says those things, like she doesn't care about the serious stuff. She just wants to be a teenager and have fun. And I think that it kind of annoys and rubs people the wrong way. Maybe people don't want to look into a mirror of what they were like as teenagers, but that's how we were. We didn't quite want to deal with the heavy stuff. We wanted to have fun.
Hey, that's true. And I'm sure I had moments where like I would have forgot that I don't like cats and stuff. Yeah.
Tina's a dog person, as we know. She loves Max. And that's cool.
I love that.
It's cool. And Tina just... Yeah, I understand why she might annoy people, but you know what? That's what being a teenager's like. I don't like this idea of a really dour final girl or character in a slasher movie that has to be really serious and
they don't have to be.
There's a lot of them that just don't. I think they end up coming off boring and one-dimensional and just no fun to be around. So I kind of want a bubbly, fun character like this who goes, who does like may take things a little bit far with the ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da. But I like that she's like living life so like fun because I think they're just playing it that way because they know there's got to be a dark exit for this character, and I like that they want to start it off in a fun way, and you can see the relationship between Tina and Jamie is pretty strong from the beginning of the film, and and I know this betrays the bond that they set up with Rachel and Jamie and Four, and I totally get that. But the actress who plays Rachel herself was like, she knew going in that she was going to be killed off because that's what happens to actors in slasher movies. They get killed off, Yeah. It happened to Alice in part 2. The hero of part 1 was killed in part 2, and so on. So it's happened a lot.
Kind of a trope to kill the survivors.
Yeah, it was a trope then. It was something that happened, like in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. It happened all the time.
Oh God, yeah, that was. Yeah, I mean, they did those really quick sometimes.
I think so. It wasn't unusual in seeing this in 1989 to have Rachel killed off. It was like, okay, yeah, she's dead. So but they have another character who kind of takes that place, and it just happened a lot. And I wasn't offended by it, but I understand why it does offend and rubs people the wrong way because they had just a strong bond with that character, and I totally get that, but. Yeah. I don't know. I had an immediate bond with Tina, so it worked out to my advantage, and I liked that there was this group of teenagers and who were horny, of course, and wanted to party, and Halloween is at this point a stigma in Haddonfield, and I think Tina mentions it how it should be outlawed, and because of all the murders that happen on Halloween there, but so the teenagers, they have to have their fun. They go to the Tower Farm and get into all sorts of shenanigans, and so I like where it goes in those places because it sets up, of course, crazy fun death scenes and moments where sexuality leads to death, and that's kind of course the trope that was set up in the first film as much as John Carpenter said that he never really thought of it like sex equal death,
but it wasn't like his intention necessarily.
No, because you have teenagers in a movie, realistically they're doing stuff like that, so they're experimenting with pot or drugs, and they're having sex, and that's what they do, right? They're not all double scoops, Not everyone's going to the ice cream shop to get getting satisfied. Here it's it's amped up a little bit more sexually, and that was very true of horror movies of that time period, and yeah, I was into it. Those are the kinds of movies I was really into at the time, and what? Looking back at it, I go back to those movies more often than I do like some of the other ones with a little bit more self-serious and take things a little bit more go to the more classy route. Having said all that, I think there is a classiness to this movie that kind of is not really mentioned. I think there's an interesting look to this film that's very different from 4. And the camera work is very interesting in this movie. I think it goes to some fun places. I think the director Dominique Antonin-Girard, who's French and Swiss, was intentionally adding a European flair to some of the look of this film with some more naturalistic lighting than 4, and then even like 2. Like it has an interesting look to it, and I like the way it looks, and I like the camera work in it, and I like the style of it. And I know some people have some opinions that the Myers house looks weird and it doesn't match. I don't really care about that as much. Because
no,
it
that
doesn't
stuff
distract
doesn't bug
me
me
too much from the film. I think I was into the look itself of the film, and I think it's, to me, a step up from 4 in terms of the look and feel of it. I know that may not be the popular opinion, but I really do think there's a more attention to those kinds of things, to the look and feel of it. I think Dominique was also trying to pay attention to the characters. He really was. His heart was in the right place with the characters and what the journey they were going on emotionally. And I really kind of sensed that too. And he was, he says it in interviews, but I think it comes across in the film to me. I like the characters. They're silly. They're teenage characters. They're fun, but I think they're also likable, and I like them. So I like, and again, like Dr. Loomis playing a role here of possibly going mad himself is interesting to me. And I like how it all kind of intertwines and where it goes in the last act. Up until that point, it's more of a teen slasher, and then the last act where it becomes kind of a bit of a standoff with like Michael trapping Michael into the Myers house, and I like that stuff about it too. I like where it goes with that, and poor Jamie goes to the emotional ringer in this movie. I think she's fantastic, Danielle Harris, in this film, especially. I think she has a lot to do in this one. And I think as a performance, I think it's pretty top notch. I mean, she really has a lot of emotional stuff in this. And, she's a pro, and she does it, and she pulls it off pretty well, I think. I can't imagine many other child actors of the time could do as good of a job as she did in this role. So I have to really commend that about her in this film. And I like that she has a little bit of not so much a love story, but she has a bit of a boy who likes her, a Billy, and that stuff is really cute.
No, it is.
I think a lesser movie would have just killed him off. It would have been like a bit of a cheap kind of like thing. But here, I think they're really cute together, and I'm I don't know. I'm actually a huge fan of this movie. I think it's my favorite of the Myers sequels. I know that's like a blasphemy to say, but I go back to this one much more than I do than any of those sequels. I love 2. I really do. To me, that's more of an adult horror movie. That's all adults in it, and I love the hospital setting in that one. And then 4. I enjoy 4, but this one I go back to much more than the others. I find much more replay value for me. Maybe because I like the characters more, maybe because I like the look of it more and the feel of it more, but that's just me. And what are your thoughts?
Oh, sure. So, well, I mean, first of all, I want to say, I love how much you love this movie. I really do. I think it's really cool and really pure, and I love, why you love it. And I just love the way that you love it and defend it. And I mean, it's the kind of love that I strive for in my marriage. And I legit think it's great that you're so into this movie. So it's funny because I'm trying to think of how to go about this. I was kind of the way I've kind of formed my opinions about these different movies over the years has always been kind of in a vacuum. So like I was never really like other than my brother who like shares a love of horror movies with me. Like I didn't really have like a community.
Right.
Like I've got like friends that I'm like we can talk sports, all day and stuff like that. But I was never like in any horror forums or anything like that growing up. So I just had no idea. And none of my friends are really into these kinds of movies either. So for me, having like kind of rediscovered these later, and like falling in love with Halloween 4 after shunning it all these years and stuff, like I was actually really surprised because the circle that I'm kind of in now, which is like the retro movie love community, who I love, you guys are awesome, and like the Hysteria Continues guys, obviously there's some overlap there. I was really surprised when like it seemed like everyone was kind of down on 4 and loved 5. So like it's like I get that. I'm sure like that's probably just like I'm only just seeing this because I don't see everything else, but I'm sure 5 has plenty of people who hate it. But to me, like that kind of blows me away. And maybe that like affects the way I kind of look at this movie a little bit because I try to just judge it on its own. I try to just kind of like not worry about it as much as a continuation from part 4. Because again, I think part 4 is awesome. I love it. But where can you go from there? And where they decided to go, trying to crank out another sequel to keep pace with Jason and Freddy, basically. They after such a lapse of not taking advantage of this franchise, the 6-year gap from Halloween 3, like you mentioned. So I think like they kind of did it the way they did it, and it's just never worked for me. And I try to judge it just as its own thing, just like, hey, it's just a sequel. And it's not a movie I hate, don't get me wrong. It's definitely not a movie I hate. It's just kind of like middle of the road. And it's like, it's not bad, it's okay. It may be more bad than good as far as like checking the boxes for me. And the stuff that like rubs me the wrong way more is just like in the context of the franchise more than just the movie itself. It's like I don't like you mentioned you like the opening of this one too, like where it's just like those like fast like slashes and stuff like that, like in the opening credits. Even that to me was kind of like I don't know. And then like the sight of so the way they kind of pick things up, and you have you have them shoot Michael and he falls down the mine shaft. And then I'm pretty sure like this is where a guy comes and throws a stick of dynamite or like a bundle of dynamite down the hole. So like that scene where like you see Michael Myers like crawl like into the stream. He like just crawls into the water from the bottom of the mine shaft and like kind of like helplessly like flails like downstream until he like goes to that shack or wherever he ends up. I don't even know where that was necessarily, but I think your description earlier was pretty good, like an underground lair or something. But like the way he just kind of looks in that scene, like that's our introduction to Michael in this movie. It's just so like sad to me, like it's like pathetic, like it's depressing. I don't know, like it's just kind of like what, like he just looks so. It's like. Maybe it's just me, but like to me, it's like funny, and it shouldn't be funny, but it's funny, and maybe I'm insensitive. And then like you have the tattoo show up, and that's fine. And I think it's kind of interesting because like this movie gets grouped with Halloween 4 because it's like a direct continuation, but like I feel like almost like 5 and 6 are like the Thorn movies, you know what I mean? Like 4 is just kind of its own like let's try to get things back to the status quo movie. And then like this is kind of continues with 6, but then there's such a large gap in between compared to 4 and 5. So I don't know, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I mean, you can love it or hate it. One thing it's not is like boring to me, like this whole series of what they did here. And I just like I don't know. I get a kick out of the fact that he's like nursed back to health by this, like, I don't know what he is, hermit, prospector, or something. Like, I think he was supposed to be like a cult member originally or something. I don't know. I might have read that somewhere, but like, I get a kick out of it. Don't get me wrong. It's like funny, but like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of stuff I think is really funny in this movie, which is great. Like, it makes it really entertaining to watch, but like, I don't know if it's intentional, some of it. And there's stuff like, and that's fine. Like, I don't, it doesn't have to be, but like, there's just stuff that like aesthetically bothers me with this movie. Like, you mentioned the look. I think this one has one of the worst like visuals to me, because, and I don't know about camera work and stuff necessarily, that might be solid. Like, I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but like, there's no like Halloween atmosphere in this movie. I don't feel like they bothered, like, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like they bothered like to put leaves out or pumpkins out and all that, or anything, decorations and stuff. I feel like this could have been set almost any time of the year if it wasn't for the kids having like their costume contest and the the teens having like their Halloween party. So I don't know, like, it's like kind of lacking that atmosphere to me, which is important when I watch a movie set around Halloween. Like, that's like automatic bonus points to me for any movie that's set around Halloween, like good or bad. Like, I always appreciate it if you got like a skeleton hanging on someone's door or whatever, just stuff like that. And like, I just feel like this movie didn't have that. I mean, that's how I've always felt. Maybe I should watch it more carefully next time, because I can't really recall this last time I watched it. But another thing visually that's always bothered me about this movie is Michael's mask. And I
have it written down here. The mask is bad.
Yeah, but it's like the mask in H2O is bad, like, but I still like that movie. Like, I think it's fun. Like, it's fun postmodern, Scream kind of slasher, whatever. But like I can overlook stuff like that. But like, it's just so bad here. Like, I was like I don't know how much profanity like you want on the show, because like I won't read like what I wrote down. but I was like, just tuck it in, like tuck in your mask.
Yeah,
like, why wouldn't you tuck it in?
It's a lot of neck.
Yeah, I was like, why aren't you tucking your mask in? Like, it was making me mad. And like, I was like, show some professionalism, like, Michael. Like, how many times have you done this? Like tuck in your mask. And like, I forgot about like that like brute mask he puts on. When he meets up with Tina. And I think that mask is pretty cool. Like, I totally forgot about it. It's funny. I just remember, I think he like posted a picture of that even like last year, a year before or something. I had no idea that was like from a Halloween movie. I thought it was that one with Lou Diamond Phillips. I don't remember now, but I was like, oh yeah, like, oh, it's that movie. And I was like, oh, Michael Myers wears that mask, like. But like that's like a cool look. Like, it's pretty sweet. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's different, I guess. But
yeah, it's from one of my favorite scenes in the movie where he's pretending to be Mikey.
You know what I will say? Like, before I get into any other issues or whatever, I really get a kick out of that scene. I enjoy it a lot, because I think it's hilarious that he goes to pick her up, first of all. I think his driving is hilarious. I think his driving has always been hilarious, because that's something that comes up in the first one. That like, how did he learn how to drive? Which I guess is kind of answered in the next one. Who would have taught him? I don't know. But I love that. Like, this guy, like, he does what he does and decides to like keep this date, and so like, it's pretty crafty. Like how we were talking about part 4. It's not as like big as taking out like a city, but it's a pretty clever like scheme for whatever he's planning this night. And he I love that he goes and picks her up, and I love that it's funny because you kind of knock like Rachel's taste in men. Like, let's talk about Tina's taste in men.
Terrible taste in men.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so bad that
she
can
knows
ride in a car with Michael Myers and not know it's him.
The thing is that she has terrible taste in boys, but she knows it. Rachel
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
know
she
it.
does.
She
No,
acknowledges that
it's true.
she has a terrible boyfriend.
Yeah, and it's such a teen thing. Both of those
Yeah.
are. The teen that doesn't really get it and the teen that gets it
Yeah,
but
exactly.
puts up with it anyways are both like totally, things you shouldn't do, but you don't know till you're like 30.
Right.
And like that's totally fine. But I just love that her relationship is that bad to where she can have a car ride with Michael Myers and he's like not talking to her, he's being really intense and that, and that's just normal to her. Like that's just like, oh, okay, that's how you're gonna act again. Like that's hilarious to me. Like that's how bad her relationship is with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'll go on a little sidetrack really quick. I like Mikey. I like her boyfriend, and not that he's likable. He's a jerk. Like he's a total jerk. But I get a kick out of that character, and that actor. He's in Twice Dead, which is a movie I love. And he's kind of like a jerk in that too. He's like a gang member or whatever. But like, what's his name? I should pull that up. Jonathan Chapin. But yeah, I think he's good, and I like that he's. I like that his name's Mikey or Michael or whatever. I get a kick out of that. I like that Michael Myers goes out of his way. Like I just try to get inside his head sometimes, even though we shouldn't. We should just enjoy a slasher. But I love that he goes out of his way to like scrape this guy's car, like to like antagonize him like that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I get a kick out of that, and I get a kick out of her interactions with him in that scene. And again, I do like that mask and that look. But yeah, like again, like I don't. So okay, another thing I'll say, like the mask. Okay, I hate it. It's probably I hate that mask probably more than any other mask in the series. I can't think of what the mask looked like in the Rob Zombie movies because I only saw those once a long time ago. And
Not good.
Yeah, I can't picture those, but. I can picture like the rest of them. I think pretty good, and I mean that one's just the worst to me, and it just doesn't help that it's like sticking out. It could have been better with like little small adjustments like that, like if he just tucked it in his collar or whatever. But I think I read that it was supposed to be like a combination of the faces of Greg Nicotero, the special effects guy, and Don Shanks, the actor. It was like, so the mold was supposed to be like their faces or something combined.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't remember where I read that. That's the problem. So I couldn't really find it again when I was getting ready for this show.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to kind of do something, that they thought was cool or clever, and it just kind of changed the look too much. I don't know. But again, like that's, it's not a deal breaker, the mask, but it does bother me a lot.
Yeah.
And
to me, I like the mask in 4 less, so it's fun.
Yeah, again, I mean, it totally is personal preference. Like everybody has certain things that like appeals to them and or doesn't appeal to them, and checks certain boxes and stuff. So like with all these movies, with any movie, so I don't know. Just for me, like aesthetically, like this one, like didn't feel like Halloween. Hated the mask. Hated that they killed off Rachel. Again, like that's not something that they only did in this movie, like you said. Like that happened to a lot of survivors in a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But what I hated, I think, more about it here was that once she's dead, she's forgotten about, and suddenly Tina is like the main concern for like for Jamie, for Dr. Loomis, of like when she starts having her visions and stuff like that. Like it's just like all this attention is just put on Tina that I don't feel like it's earned. Like I think Tina's fine. Like she's cool. She's a fun character. Like I don't think she's annoying or anything like that. Like I just honestly, if I'm honest, I probably wouldn't have given her a whole lot of thought until like you and like maybe Eric or like some of the other guys like just started like giving her all this love, where I was like kind of like, oh wow, like I didn't know. I guess I missed something. I just didn't. I didn't catch that with this character.
There's a lot of us out there who who defend Tina and like Tina.
Now. Like I'm like, whoa.
There's a lot of people who hate her, but there's also a strong group of us who love her.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, like everyone's got different tastes and stuff. Like to me, like, she's fine. Like, she's the kind of supporting character you want in a slasher movie. Like, you want them to kind of be interesting and fun, and like, what's so different from her and like Laurie's friends or something, like in the first Halloween, maybe it's like a little bit more over the top or whatever. They're just like kind of like fun, obnoxious teenagers too, So I don't know. I don't think she doesn't really rub me the wrong way or anything, as much as it rubs me the wrong way that she's just like, for whatever reason, like whether it was like the writer or the director or whatever, they just decided, you know what, like, I'm not a fan of Rachel. We're just gonna cut her out and insert this character. Like, that's what doesn't work for me, where it's just like, huh? Like, and it's just like the commitment from like Jamie, like she just loves her and cares about her so much, and Tina's like loves her, but even though like, she's still a teenager, like she could have totally gone and like stayed with her that night when she's all traumatized, but no, she wants to go back to the party. She's like, she cares. She could have gone and visited her earlier, which she said she was gonna do, but then when Mikey comes to pick her up, oh, we'll go later. Like, she does her things too, like a teenager would, but like, she does love her, like she does care about her, like she cares about this kid and feels bad for her. But then it's also kind of weird that she would do that whole prank, I guess, too, making light of the Michael Myers thing, because if she loves Jamie so much and knows, like, I don't know, that'd be like a little bit closer to home than like all the other teenagers in Haddonfield, I think. But that's fine. I don't really care about stuff like that. But like, like, my problem with her more is just that, like, I liked Rachel, and I feel like no one likes Rachel. I don't know. Maybe again, that's just my inner circle.
Well, a lot of people like Rachel. They definitely.
Again, I'm probably just not seeing that. But like, to me, it's like, oh, I like Rachel. I thought she was cute. I liked her. She was heroic. There was nothing like bad about her, you know what I mean? Like, maybe she was like a little bit more by the numbers as far as like that kind of a character, a little bit more like I guess I wouldn't say she was like a serious character, but she wasn't like the comic relief or anything like that, for sure. And like, again, like, it's not a knock on Tina. I enjoy like this love fest for her.
My friend, I won't say who it is because it's supposed to be a secret. I mean, this would be on the podcast, but after it happens, he's holding this weekend a screening of Halloween 5 at his place, and Tina, the actress who plays Tina, is going to watch it with them and give them live commentary. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So it's only a screening for fans of Tina. So if you're not a fan of Tina, you're not invited. I was invited, but I live 3,000 miles away. So.
Oh, bummer. That
would have been amazing.
Cool, that's cool that she would do something like that.
It's really cool that she would. I think she's since embraced her fans for this movie. Like for a long time, she wasn't in the business anymore, and she was doing other things and mom, whatever. But I think she's since like really come to really embrace this role and her fans. So that's really cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's a step beyond showing up at a convention or something.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I like her, and I'm sure she's a fine actress or person. Who is it again? Wendy Kaplan? I think
Wendy Kaplan. She's now Wendy Foxworth, I think. And,
yeah, that's right.
So that's really cool.
She's cool. Like, again, I'm not here to get the ire of the Tina crowd. I just didn't catch that. I just didn't get that she was like this cool, important character. She was just like a silly character in the slasher, and I just never understood why they subbed her in there. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's other things about this movie, like, there's things that like I laugh and like I enjoy. Like, I don't understand like why there's like this random old lady in a rocking chair like at the Tower Farm party. Like, I don't know. There's like stuff like and like there's like, so this is another thing I'll give it a break on, like the psychic bond with Jamie. Like, I'm not one to knock a psychic bond in a slasher movie. Again, like, I'm the only person on Earth who likes Jason Takes Manhattan. And I'm sorry to bring this up every podcast, but like that, there's like a psychic link in that movie, kind of, that doesn't make any sense.
It was the thing to do in late 80s horror movies.
Yeah,
throw in a psychic link.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, like sorority house massacre. So I'm just throwing
Right.
something off the top of my head, but like I'm totally fine with that. But for years, like I kind of forgot that like the psychic link in this was kind of set up in Halloween 4. So like that's where like I'll give it a break, because for a long time I thought it was so over the top
Yeah.
and silly and laughable and this and like almost like a you mentioned on the recent podcast you had with Quentin when you guys were talking about the Dead Zone, like you guys mentioned like the like how that performance kind of became like a SNL parody kind of thing. Like to me, like that's kind of like how I was seeing some of this sometimes, and it wasn't like it was no fault of like Danielle Harris or anything. She's a great child actress. Like, I'm totally with you on that. She did a good job with the material, and Donald Pleasance did a good job with what he was told to do and stuff, even though he was like really harassing like a 9-year-old girl like pretty intensely. But like I totally give this movie a break this time around, because I like kind of it like clicked as I was watching these together that like, oh, like she sees a vision of Michael Myers when he was a kid in the clown costume when she's at the costume store in Halloween 4. Not the costume store, sorry, she's at the Vincent
Drugstore, yeah.
Yeah, which I love. I love that setting. I love that makes an appearance in this too, just from the outside, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'd forgotten about that. But like exactly. And he like kicks a dog on his way out or whatever with his steel toe shoes. But that's another thing. I don't understand why Michael kills so many dogs, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's pretty consistent about that.
Yeah, he does. And just to make it clear, when I was making a joke about forgetting I don't like cats, I'm cool with cats. I got no problem with cats. I just think it's funny that Tina like plays with cats for like 20 minutes and goes, "What am I doing? I don't even like cats."
Yeah, I think it's a funny moment. I think that's a real moment too, because I feel like that's how even like myself, who like I'm allergic to cats, and I probably would play with a cat for 20 minutes too, because they're so cute. Those kittens are so cute. You can't help it.
You just forget, sure. But I don't know, like the whole psychic bond thing. I guess like going back on that, like. It was set up a little bit. Like there was some, like she was having those visions and nightmares and stuff like that. I guess I don't like where they went with it necessarily, but again, I cut this movie a break. I want to make that clear, because I don't know where someone was supposed to go after Halloween 4.
Yeah, there was no way they were going to have like a 9-year-old killer.
Yeah,
movie.
That it'd be so weird. And like, I don't know, like maybe they should have thought it out better. Like I kind of blame like the producers and everyone who just wanted Michael Myers back so bad that they didn't really, because I think they gave him like the best movie you could have got in Halloween 4 to me again. But like where they didn't do that movie necessarily in a way other than like making his death kind of vague, like falling down a hole or whatever. They didn't do a whole lot to be like, okay, this is, going forward, you guys got a lot of places to go. And the one thing where this franchise is a little different than like Friday 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff is like, I feel like they try to continue the story more. And maybe that's like to its detriment in some instances. Like they're a little bit more beholden to like what came before it. But I don't know, like that's, that shouldn't be a problem. They do a pretty good job with all that. It's just like where they went from 4 with this is just, I don't know, like again, I can't get that visual out of my head of Michael Myers like crawling into this stream and like flailing his arms like down this like river or whatever. And just getting like nursed back to health by this old man.
Well, let me read off the original opening of the film. This is what they originally were going to do.
Sure.
Halloween 5, Revenge of Michael Myers, released in 1989. The Shape was played by stuntman Don Shanks. The film opens with Michael Myers stumbling out of a mine shaft before making his way to a hermit's cabin near a creek. Then he's nursed back to health before beginning his next rampage. Initially, director Dominique Othman-Girard had much more of an explosive idea for the opening sequence, one that would have seen Myers escaping from the bowels of an exploding mountain before his bullet-ridden body floats downstream. Eventually, he's rescued by Dr. Death, played by Theron Uncle Thud Reed, who resurrects Myers using an ancient ritual. Though shot, the Dr. Death opening wasn't used and has since been assumed lost. Or is
Oh, interesting.
In a recent interview at Halloween Movies, Shanks described in detail what we would have seen in the alternate opening. I was placed on the stone altar, and all around the set were things that the production had gotten from witches and people that sell you the occult. And there were scrolls and different chants and this and that. And suspended from the altar right above me was this rock that looked like a stalactite? I don't know. It was a string. It was on a string and it would circle. And Dr. Death was doing an incantation on me, and then he had tattoos on me. He tattoos on me the Thorn rune, which is a sign of eternal life. And so he does all these incantations, and on Halloween Eve, 1 year later, I come back to life. So I put the mask on, I grab Dr. Death by the throat and pick him up over my head and break his back, and then put him on the altar, and I take the stalactite, I don't know, and I go through his chest with it. I thought it was one of my better kills, but later Mustafa thought it was too much of the occult type thing, so they decided to shoot it differently. So it's definitely more occult-y right in the beginning of.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean I heard it was supposed to be like a cult member rescues him or something. I remember reading that somewhere, but I didn't know the details. That's interesting. I don't know. I think I'm not opposed to this series having fun with like occult stuff because I mean look at Halloween 3. Like I said, like that's my. That's my baby. So I don't have a problem necessarily with that. It's just, I don't know. I think it, well, we'll get into that because I think it's a bigger factor.
We're heading towards that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it goes
but, I will say, because I think we didn't mention it yet, like I didn't like the squeaks and the whistles and stuff like with the cops. Like I thought the cops were fine as like funny characters. Like they were totally cool, but like I feel like that's like the one like extra layer that like a different filmmaker like would have kind of understood. Like you don't need necessarily.
So there was a discount on sound effects, and they
like you don't need that. Like they're already like fun, bumbling comic relief characters. And like stuff like that kind of like puts the movie in like a different tier to me.
See, I didn't mind it so much in these subsequent viewings. I mind it more in Halloween 2018, where there's this whole scene where the cops are talking about banh mi sandwiches. Yeah, I feel like it sticks out more there because that movie's really taking it seriously, right? That's not a comedy in any way.
No, tonally,
this is more of a silly movie in some regard. And so it's like, okay, it doesn't really like derail the movie, but it kind of like that scene in the 2018 one kind of stops the movie cold.
You know what? Honestly, that is kind of I mean, that movie has some funny stuff. I only saw it once. I mean, I only saw it. In the theater. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, same. So. I remember like a little kid having a pretty funny performance.
Yeah, he was actually kind of funny in that movie. Yeah.
But no, you're right though. Like I think that was a movie that tried to be pretty like serious and scary for the most part. But I will say like there is a line that I forgot was in this movie, and I actually wrote it down. and this is a line that I think is kind of out of place because it's so good. And that's here. It's delivered by Dr. Loomis, and I can't do a Dr. Loomis impersonation, so I'm just going to read it. He says, "I prayed that he would burn in hell, but in my heart, I knew that hell would not have him." And that's like, I was like, this is the movie that line is from? Like, I didn't remember that. Like, I know that line. I'm sure everybody knows that line, but like, I was like, wow, like that felt so out of place and this kind of.
People said of Donald Pleasance that anytime he would say like lines, it would sound like Shakespeare to them because
he has such gravitas. He's that talented. I mean, the guy can. Yeah, I mean, he just brings that to the role, and he's brilliant. But like that was like a standout line to me where I was like, oh, I love that line. I forgot it was in this movie, and that's just me giving another like. Trying to show some love for Halloween 5 with that. I think it's another brilliant line. But
my favorite brilliant line from 4 is delivered by Rachel when she says, "He's inside." in the school. That weird delivery, like it sounds like ADR. Like yeah, he's in the school. Duh.
That's when she comes out and the
Running out of the
rednecks are
school.
waiting
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, okay. And I like the little conversation they have there when they're like, they've been looking for Michael Myers all night, and I think they're like, all right, let's go in and get him. And like Jamie's like, oh, he's gonna kill you guys too. Like, no, like what are you doing? And someone's like, the cops are coming. Like that's their job. Like that's the state police or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. You know what? You're right. Like I love that it kind of like shows their like false bravado or whatever you want to call it. It's like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're right. Let's get these girls to safety.
Yeah, we're just gonna be body count now.
Yeah, but no. So back to Halloween 5. I will say like it was funny to me like going into this podcast because again like it was kind of my idea to be like, hey, like let's talk about the Thorn trilogy. I thought that'd be fun because I do find these movies really interesting. But like, and I knew you liked Halloween 5 a lot, but like I kind of forgot that I like that. Like this is like a hill that like you would die on, like how I am about a lot of movies, and it's a movie that I just don't really like. And like I was kind of trying to think of like how to like go about that because I'm like, dude, I don't want this to be my last time on the show. And like, and you know what I got a real kick out of that made me feel a lot better was you and Quentin last episode. Once you got to his number one, and you just like were so like dismissive of the Shawshank Redemption before Quentin. I was just like, all right, you know what? It's okay. I could tell me if I don't really like this movie.
Yeah.
So I think honesty
yeah.
is important, like we talk about, and we all have different things we like and don't like. And this movie, it's not the worst Halloween movie. It's not the worst movie in the franchise. Yeah. It's like somewhere in the middle for me, but it's just like that much on the side of where I don't really go back to it or care about it, or if I want to watch a Halloween movie, that's not the one I'm gonna put in. I've actually never even owned this movie, which is surprising because this is kind of like a tangent topic, I guess, but like as far as like being physical media collectors, which we both are, like I went through a phase, and I still have it in me a little bit, where I like really was into like Anchor Bay DVDs, like the old school Anchor Bay DVDs, like back in the day. And like of Halloween, it was just Halloween, and then it was Halloween 4 and 5, and they had like really cool editions for them. And I was always tempted to get Halloween 5 because I was like, like it's an Anchor Bay release. It's it's like the next one after Halloween 4 stuff. And this is again like after I kind of made peace with Halloween 4 or whatever too. But like, I just I don't know what it is. It's just I'm not like a completionist. Again, like I just like kind of get like my favorites of every franchise.
Yeah,
because those are the ones I'm gonna want to watch when I have time to sit down and like put on one of these movies. And otherwise, I mean, I can always count on them, showing Halloween 5 and everything else on AMC every October. So I don't know. I don't know what it is about this one. It's just not one that it's not one that I love, but I do want to make it clear that I love how much you love this movie, and I think it's great.
Okay, get into the business of it. So it was released on Friday the 13th of October 1989. Probably also played into being exciting to see a Halloween movie in October, and of course being a Friday the 13th.
Sure, yeah.
After this, it got very dicey with releasing Halloween on in October. They stopped releasing them in October for a while, which is
weird.
Very strange. I think a Halloween movie should be released in October, and thankfully they picked up that tradition with the 2018 film, and I think that they're going to do that with the next one as well. So that's good. It made $11.6 million. So yeah, it didn't quite live up to 4's box office. It was a big step down in terms of box office. It still turned a profit, of course. It was still only a $5 million budget. Yeah. And of course, and I'm sure it did pretty well on home video, and of course it played a lot of cable and so on. The makeup effects by K&B, a noticeable step up to me in the effects. You could definitely see it in Loomis's scar and makeup, which was more, again, to me, photorealistic, as a bird should look. in a film.
I love K and B. That's
solid. So they're pretty great. Don Shanks, of course, played the Shape this time, and he was a stuntman and a actor. He appeared in the slasher movie Sweet 16, and the director of this film, Dominique Authentic-Girard, he helmed a couple of other horror films as well. He did the Night Angel, which I think he did right after this one, which is a fun horror movie, and I like that. I like the look of that movie as well. I like his visuals.
Yeah, I know I've seen Night Angel, and I think I liked it, but I gotta check that out again.
Fashion and horror together, it makes a good combination. I think it's a fun one. And then he also directed Omen for the Awakening, which I actually think is a fun sequel as well. So he helmed a 5 and a 4. Co-writer Michael Jacobs, he wrote a couple of fun mid-80s exploitation films. He wrote Certain Fury and 315 The Moment of Truth, which I believe is getting a Blu-ray release soon, which is kind of cool.
Dude, those are both awesome movies.
Yeah. And so, he was responsible for the screenplay as well as the director who wrote the screenplay as well. And then, other than that, favorite kill. What's your favorite kill in the movie?
Favorite kill? You know what? I don't even know. I'm sure you brought it up. I'd kind of forgot that Tina died in this movie. Mm-hmm. Again, it's just one I don't watch that much, and like she had like a good heroic moment there. You know, I'm not sure if I feel like it was earned for that character necessarily, but it was good. But gosh, I'm trying to think because the Rachel's death was like, it was some good like cat and mouse there in the house and some fake outs setting up to it, but then it was a pretty weak death. You had the pitchfork, which is something we'd seen before, but it didn't go all the way through here. It just kind of killed the dude on top. Then it was a scythe. Gosh, what am I missing? And you had that poor heroic cop hung out the window. I'm having a hard time with this one. I guess Tina's was kind of like the one that had the most weight in this movie, even though it shouldn't have.
Tina's screamed a lot in this movie.
Yeah, and that was kind of like, I don't know. I think just the context of it and stuff, just looking at this movie in a vacuum, maybe that without more creative kills and stuff coming to mind, I think that just kind of for the impact was, maybe number one. But what would you say?
Well, I like that he uses a lot of different weaponry in this movie.
He does.
He doesn't just use knives in this. He uses different things. So I guess I really like that 1-2 punch of Spitz getting the pitchfork through him, and then right after that, almost immediately after that, Samantha gets the Sith. So that was really cool. 1-2 punch for me. I also like that he's using farm equipment too. So that's kind of cool.
No, you know what? I will say, like, even again, just looking at it in a vacuum, like that whole little set piece, I guess, in the barn, just with them, even like taking the whole part with Tina and the cats and stuff out of it, like just the couple, hooking up and what happens to them, like that's like solid 80s slasher, like totally. That's totally cool, and I like that he uses those weapons too. And you know how like I'm a big collector of like the German releases of like a lot of these movies with like kind of cool artwork. It's like that. Like I like that the one for this, they actually have him holding like that, like the scythe and stuff. And it's like, this is the only movie you really get that out of Michael Myers. So that's pretty sweet.
I think the chemistry between Samantha and Spitz is really weird. I don't know. Something about
I didn't know that was his name until you said it.
That's what they call him. Yeah, they call him Spitz.
I don't think I'd ever noticed that.
I think this. Just rewatch that movie and just like focus on Spitz and like it's a little off there. I won't go into it, but you'll see it if you watch the movie again.
I will say I always thought she was a babe for what it's worth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and for me, Tina is the total babe of this movie.
Sure,
and her,
I could see that.
in her outfit and the queen of room service outfit. Self-described queen of room service, which is pretty great. This was the only movie I was ever caught cutting out of school to go see.
No way, that's awesome.
I did that a lot, too. Especially in this time period, 1988, 89, 90, around there. I was cutting out of school a lot to go see movies, and this is the only one I got busted.
That's great.
When I got home, and you know what? I don't regret it. Let's move on to Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Every legend is based on fact. Every myth is grounded in truth. For 17 years, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, has been haunted by a night when evil roamed the streets and a madman ruled the night. Everyone knows his name. Now, everyone will know the truth.
I knew what he was, but I never knew why.
Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, rated R.
True terror never dies. For pulse-pounding suspense and relentless thrills, nothing can match Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, the newest and most frightening chapter in the chilling Halloween series. In a single horrifying night, Michael Myers' masked reign of terror changed Halloween forever. Now, 6 years after he was presumed dead in a fire, Myers has returned to kill again, and this time there's no escape. As the homicidal fury builds to a spine-tingling climax, the long-hidden secrets of the screen's most maniacal murderer are revealed with shocking results. And that is courtesy of the synopsis on the Dimension home video VHS release. And that feels very Dimension. That's very appropriate. Mm-hmm. And, I'm also going to go ahead and read the description for something that was my first time experiencing after hearing about it for many years, and that is the producer's cut of this movie. So if you'd allow me, return to Haddonfield and experience the unrated and extended Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, the producer's cut in crisp HD, taken from the original work print of the film. The producer's cut, often called Halloween 666 among fans, includes almost 70 minutes of alternate footage as well as a shocking alternate ending. And I think that might have been the description that was, I'm not sure if it was exclusive to like this retro VHS looking slipcover that they made for this release, but that was kind of the closest I could find to a VHS release. So I figured that should do the trick. And again, this is my first time encountering this producer's cut after hearing about it for so many years. So I'm excited to kind of talk about that as well, because I think we both watched both cuts of this movie for the podcast, right?
Yes.
All right, great. So so let's kind of talk about these together. I will say Danielle Harris is sorely missed as Jamie Lloyd. I feel like there's nothing wrong with the actress that replaces her. I wrote it down here somewhere. J.C. Brandy. She's fine. She's just not Danielle Harris. And if it's true that like the reason Danielle Harris isn't in this was over like $5,000 or something like that, that's just, I can't wrap my head around that if that's the case. But given what happens to her character in either cut of the movie, I'm kind of fine with her not being here. I thought, since we're kind of going to talk about both cuts, I will say kind of right off the bat, since we're talking about characters kind of not being treated the way we'd want them to necessarily in these last few movies, like Rachel comes to mind. I thought that Jamie's death in the theatrical cut of this movie was like kind of mean-spirited. It almost felt like something you'd see in like Rob Zombie's Halloween or something, like the way she's kind of thrust onto this thresher and then Michael like turns it on, I think. It's just weird. Like that, it's just, I don't know, that's kind of a weird way to treat this character. And I wanted to say, when I saw this producer's cut for the first time, that like, oh, like her character like got a lot more like respect, you know, this time around, because she kind of survives this initial attack. You know, like he just stabs her, and she survives this attack and goes to the hospital. But no, what ends up happening is she gets like assassinated basically while she's at the hospital. By the Man in Black, the mysterious Man in Black we alluded to before. And on top of that, like that's already kind of like a weak death. Like they just kind of prolonged it, I guess, for whatever reason. Nothing really happened with her character in between. She was just in a hospital instead. But on top of that, this also added kind of more disrespect and grossness to the character with like kind of, I don't even like saying the word, but like there's kind of like some incest like undertones and stuff going on here. That is just, I don't know. Like I right off the bat, I just want to say that about this movie. I did not like that. That's where they went with this character. In either cut, I feel like she deserved better. And you know, again, I think Rachel deserved better. I don't just mean like Brady, like, you know, she deserved better than what happened with her. But like that was fine. That fits like into like what you see in like slasher movies. Like this felt more like almost like, oh, you know, Danielle Harris is not coming back, and I'm sure stuff was decided beforehand. But it's like, all right, well then this is what we're gonna do to that character. So I don't know. There's just something about that rubs me the wrong way right off the bat. This movie does have some things going for it. Like I'll say, like it does have like a real like fall atmosphere to it. I think it might have been filmed in the fall, if I'm not mistaken. I seem to remember that. These were all filmed in Utah, Salt Lake City, I believe. So, I mean, you know, there's the consistency there at least. But this one, you really see like a lot of leaves and stuff like that. That just they don't have to go through all the trouble they went through with Halloween 1 till now with trying to make it look like fall when it wasn't. And I like that. I get a kick out of that. I enjoy that. I do think there's a lot of Halloween decorations in this one, kind of like a good atmosphere through the movie. Like there's a lot of decorations visible. It just has like a kind of like a fun Halloween season vibe to it. But I don't know what it is. It's like this movie's plot is kind of hard to describe even, because what you have is you have it kind of just start off in like such a weird place with like the birth of this baby and you know, Jamie trying to escape with this baby, and then from this cult, and then Michael Myers kind of chasing her. And you know, we didn't really talk about the ending of Halloween 5, but man, that's like a real like what the fuck ending, like pardon my French, like this man in black that just kind of shows up and kills all the sheriffs, I guess, and deputies and stuff, and breaks Michael out of jail. And that's a weird one. And kind of seeing where they are now with this, what's the gap again? I want to say
like 6 years. I think.
6 years. Yeah, I think I just read that actually, and it's kind of weird to kind of see where they pick up from here. And I don't know. It's just kind of right off the bat, you have this chase going on, and you have you're kind of reintroduced to Dr. Loomis, where he is now. He's like listening to like this radio show, and then you have you know, Paul Rudd's character, Tommy
Paul
Doyle.
Stephen Rudd.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so weird. Like I like Paul Rudd. You know, I think he comes off as really likable in most movies and stuff. But man, his performance is weird in this one. Even I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. And he doesn't. I don't know. Like he doesn't need to be Tommy Doyle. I guess that's a nice nod to the first movie, but it's just something about it. It just kind of doesn't really click with me. Maybe it's just kind of the way he acts and the way he kind of confronts Michael in certain scenes towards the end of this movie that just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I guess the final guy is always gonna have some issues compared to Final Girl, and this movie does feel like he's kind of more front and center than like the Final Girl character, I guess. Because I'd honestly kind of forgotten about her. Kara Strode, it's Kara Strode, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever really like looked her up or anything when I'd seen this movie in the past. So this was kind of the first time I was like, oh yeah, she's like the main character too. I think I wrote down that actress's name too, Marianne Hagen. So she's okay, but I like just kind of forgettable, I guess, for me. And then like Paul Rudd again, like I love Paul Rudd. He's cool, man, but it's just kind of cringeworthy in some places, a little bit for me. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird movie. I'm not really describing like what the story's about because it's kind of it really depends on what cut of the movie you watch. But like you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. Like you got this baby, you got Michael coming after it. Baby ends up with Paul Rudd at a certain point, and you got kind of have the story from there. But it is, it is very interesting to me. Like, again, this is a movie that's kind of fun to dissect and like talk about, and the decisions that were made and the directions they went, and again, like it feels very Dimension, and it's unique in that sense. But I find like the whole kind of like Strode family thing like a little bit weird too, tonally. Because the only character that really stands out from that bunch is probably the dad, which is, John Strode, and that's not like necessarily a good thing. And I kind of feel like him, and like maybe like the shock jock character, the like kind of like Howard Stern stand-in, like they almost seem like characters you would have got again, like in like a Rob Zombie Halloween movie. And it's this isn't even intentional. I think it's like the third time I mentioned like Rob Zombie's Halloween talking about this. I wonder if maybe he was a fan of this entry. Maybe this is the only one he saw. I don't know, but like it does feel like it has some of those elements, like that. The dad again, like in the Strode family, is just such an asshole. And he's great at it. Don't get me wrong. Like the actor does an awesome job, like portraying that. But like he's really unlikable, and it's so weird because like you're kind of introduced to him like by like yelling at kids to not put up like Michael Myers things on his front yard or whatever, which is fine. Like it's fun. Like but then like you go back inside and he's like calling, he's complaining about his daughter showing up after a few years and like his wife wanting to help her out financially, and he's like calling her son a bastard, and he slaps her, like it just like it like kind of turns from like unlikable but like fun character to like, oh, this guy's an asshole, like. And I don't know, like the rest of them just aren't that memorable. I wouldn't say a lot of the characters are that memorable because I wouldn't say this movie's even that memorable, and I feel so bad saying that. But every time I've seen this, and every few years I'll watch it. Like again, like it's not a movie I've ever owned, but like I rented the producer's cut this time. I paid for it on Amazon. I want to say I watched the theatrical cut just on AMC or whatever, but I can always count on AMC to show 4, 5, and 6 every year. But I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like every time I see this movie, I kind of it kind of loses me at some point, and I kind of forget what happens. And I think watching it again this time a little bit more like closely, I could kind of see why that's the case, especially because I've only seen the theatrical cut before now, and it's because the ending is so weird. Like, the way it goes is so like you have this climax that I'd forgotten. I think it's supposed to be at Smith's Grove, which is kind of like a nice callback to the original Halloween. Where it all starts off, where Michael's institutionalized, but you have this climax there, and like all I remember getting every time I watch this movie is like flashing lights and Michael Myers killing a bunch of random cult members, and Donald Pleasance is there, but it's like kind of weird how he's there. And I know he passed away, but like there's some things that just like I'm missing something. I'm missing scenes here. He's being injected with like some green goo from like syringes. I don't know, like it's so weird, and then it just ends. Like it just ends in like such a weird, like unsatisfying way that feels so abrupt and so unsatisfying. Like you just, I mean, if you don't mind, like I'll just kind of describe it. Like I'm sure everyone's seen, but like you have this scene basically where everyone's sitting in a car except for Dr. Loomis. You got you've got Tommy Doyle and Kara Strode and her son, and they're like getting ready to drive away from Smith's Grove. They made it. They left Michael for dead. And Dr. Loomis is like, "Oh, I've got some unfinished business here," And then the next scene, like after they drive away and leave him there, is just like Michael Myers' mask on the floor and like Donald Loomis like screaming, like in the I said Donald Loomis, sorry. You know what I mean? And he's just screaming in the background. And it's so weird. Like I kind of like got it this time. Like why? And it's like almost like this movie puts me in a daze every time. Like it like puts me in like a trance or something. By the time it gets to the end, to where like nothing registers and like nothing makes sense, and it's almost like I must have fallen asleep, or like I must have just been tired, or like I just I missed something important. But it's like it's just so disjointed. And I will say the producer's cut, having watched it for the first time now, like it's a lot more coherent. I feel like it's like. It's like watching a movie. Like it's makes sense, but it's not necessarily. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a better ending or anything. Like it just makes sense at least. Like you kind of follow what's happening, even if it's weird and just as loony. What they'd gone with then, but it's a strange movie. It has some interesting things going for it. I do find it really interesting. Like I keep using that word, but like this one, for whatever reason, it kind of gets my attention a little bit more than 5, even though I think 5 is like a better like just Halloween sequel. It like like it fits better, but like this one is like more of like a puzzle to me. To where like every time it's just kind of like, yeah, maybe I should watch that one again, because like I'm sure it's gonna like have something more to it this time. There's so much I've missed, I'm sure, but it's just a mess. Mm-hmm. It really is a mess, and there's a lot more of the cult and those elements in this producer's cut. I didn't even mention the Men in Black. The Man in Black really where they go with that character. I like the casting there. He's so. Oh, I guess obviously everyone's seen this movie, but the Man in Black is basically revealed to be like a doctor that you saw for like 2 seconds in the first Halloween. And he's the guy who's like, oh, well, like, who taught Michael Myers how to drive or whatever, basically, when they're trying to figure out how he escaped. And then in this, he's revealed to be like this really like powerful cult leader. And he's recasted. It's not the same actor, but I'm fine with the casting. He's a charismatic actor. I'm blanking on the name.
Mitchell Ryan, I think.
Yes, yeah, that's right. He comes off as kind of exactly, and he comes off as like a charismatic, like cult leader kind of character, and like it's just so weird though. The whole thing feels so disjointed, and this whole trilogy feels like, again, I mean, I might have said this before, but I feel like they didn't really plan anything beyond bringing Michael Myers back in Halloween 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that all these years I've been told like the producer's cut like kind of fixes everything with this movie, it's like, no, it doesn't. Like, it's still like really weird, like creative decisions were made in this movie, like either cut, like either way you want to look at it. It's more coherent. Like, I definitely think it's more coherent, but it's still like what were they thinking? Like, kind of going this way with the franchise and with Michael Myers and with just kind of all the unnecessary explaining, I guess, of his motivations and why he needs to kill like his bloodline off and whatever. I don't know. I still don't really get it. I don't. It's funny because every time I saw this movie before, I never understood what the cult was gonna do with his baby. Before he shows up and kills everyone in the room with like the flashing lights and stuff going off. Like, I still like this time I kind of remembered that, and I was like, oh yeah, like, well, maybe I'll catch it this time. Nope, I still have no idea what they were getting ready to do, what kind of ceremony that was, what their plan was. And again, I mean, that was rewrites, that was reshoots, so I don't know. But unfortunately, Donald Pleasance did pass away when they wanted to do these reshoots, and it did kind of make things more disjointed than they would have otherwise been. But I don't know. I don't see this movie. I don't think it would have been better necessarily if they'd been able to film him for the ending either, because I think they ever really knew where they were going with this. So yeah, I'm it's kind of fitting because I'm all over the place here, and this movie's all over the place. And it's kind of hard to describe, but again, I do find it very interesting. It is something that I'm always tempted to go back and watch again, because it's a movie that almost every time I watch it, it feels like the first time, which is bizarre. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was Joe Chappelle directed this, right? Who did Phantoms was the first thing that came to mind. So I don't know. I just, again, it's weird. It's weird that there's a producer's cut. I can't really think of a producer's cut existing for any other movie. I don't. This is Dimension, so like who's the producer? Like because I think this producer's cut is supposed to be like Paul Freeman's like vision or version or whatever, however you want to look at it. But like, wouldn't the Weinsteins have been involved with this? Like, wouldn't they have had a big hand in like those reshoots?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I just said hand in Weinstein's. I feel dirty. But yeah, that was unintentional, but you get it. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just it's really weird. It's really weird that there is a producer's cut in the first place, and it's really weird that I think other producers involved in this are the reason for the reshoots in the first place. So I don't know. I can't wrap my head around this movie. It has a really good Halloween atmosphere. But there's not a lot I can say about it positive other than that, if I'm honest.
I'm going to read off some of my notes just to make it more clear what I think about this movie. First off, what? WT, I wrote that. Loomis gets plastic surgery.
Yes!
LOL.
Yeah, we alluded to that earlier, but what?
Yeah, because he really needs it. Paul Rudd is creepy.
Yes.
Unpleasant. So many stabbings. Though someone's head explodes. Kim Darby, exclamation point. Tragic wig. So little I care about everyone. I like the one girl, Beth, played by Mariah O'Brien. The origin of Michael Myers, also Halloween 666. So that was like... This movie had like a couple of titles, and I remember like it was being like I think there was even a trailer for it under a different title, like The Origin of Michael Myers or something.
Oh, interesting.
And it was also Halloween. It was also known as Halloween 666, so it was kind of confusing.
And I always thought it was Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, but I don't think it is, right?
I think it's just called Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, but the final whatever theatrical.
I totally had that wrong.
But they had it like these other titles, like the trailers in theaters and trailers like whatever on televisions, and then they change it last minute. So it gives you an idea of like all these like last minute things that they did to this film to make it whatever. Because of all the cooks in the kitchen, as I think the writers pointed out, that this had a lot of people were like, were just giving their input and didn't like it. They tested the film, didn't like the film, and then so they reshot the movie, and then they kept changing things and moving things around and having these. Yeah, so it just ended up being what it was, and which is a big old mess of a movie, and I don't find it particularly enjoyable, honestly.
No.
I don't find it particularly well cast or interesting. Nope. So I'm not a fan at all of this movie. There's not much I could recommend in it. I think the music is even weird.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad you mentioned the music. I'm so sorry, Meep, but before I forget, that is one thing that blew my mind in the theatrical cut, and I never noticed it until I watched it this time. Those guitar riffs are terrible. Like,
so weird.
What is going on with that? Like, it was so weird. It rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I don't know why I never noticed that before. Maybe it's just because the rest of the movie was so distracting. But the soundtrack is so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like a Halloween soundtrack. It's like it's the same composer too, but it was
yeah, exactly. But that's one thing where I'll say the producer's cut, the music was better. It was more just kind of traditional. That's one little credit I'll give it there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I mean I don't have anything positive to say about this one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I mean, it's kind of an accomplishment to make Paul Rudd so kind of unlikable and just bland, and
they spent a long time trying to make you think like he's up to something, and then reveal that he's not. He's just trying to protect the baby. It just seems like, what's the point?
Yeah, I feel like that's almost like something that tricks me into rewatching this movie is the fact that he's in it. Because I'm like, oh yeah, early Paul Rudd performance. I just saw Ant-Man. I'm all for watching Paul Rudd. Yeah, I do get a kick out of seeing actors in early slasher movie roles in general, kind of more established actors.
Yeah.
A lot of them kind of cut their teeth in the in the business like that, and I don't know. It's just not what you would expect.
Yeah, actually,
it's not an enjoyable performance at all.
I actually had a conversation with him about horror movies and slasher movies in particular, and we talked a little bit about Halloween, and he's not particularly proud of the end result of Halloween 6. He's big on horror movies, and he was happy that he was going to be in a Halloween film, but
who wouldn't be?
But not quite happy about the end result. So when they approached him recently to do reprise his role as Tommy in the new Halloween movie, I can understand why you wouldn't want to.
That's funny.
You wouldn't want to return to that because you didn't have quite a good experience, you know.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. You don't want, because if you reprise that role, you're only bringing that much more attention on it.
Exactly. And it's,
I totally understand. That's interesting. I didn't even know that they discussed that or looked into that.
Apparently,
so.
yeah, and he's out of course their price range for that movie. But
Sure,
I think,
yeah. But
if
he was like really fond of the role,
he would have been. Yeah, if he was fond of the role, he would have like made an exception, of course, because he's actually a fan of horror movies. So as it turns out.
Man, yeah, I don't know.
I like the fashions. I like how bad the fashions are. Like, it reminds me of how
like the grunge,
how grungy. like they try to make it the bad outfits, the final girl or whatever she is. I don't like that. I don't like that. There's the Strodes. It just doesn't make any sense that there's Strodes. There's more Strodes.
You mentioned a character you liked. Was that the brother's girlfriend?
Yeah, the brother's girlfriend. I think she was the only character in the movie I liked.
And sadly, again, this is a movie where I don't really even know the characters' names, and I've seen it a lot.
Yeah,
and I
had to look it up.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it's just no, and she is fine. She's likable and she's attractive and whatever. But I feel like the kind of either unlikable or bland characters outweigh everyone else in this movie by so much. I don't even understand again, I just keep saying the Howard Stern kind of guy. I'm not.
That's strange. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was because of that time, though. Yeah.
And then it's so weird, how he just gets in the wrong band. He, and maybe it was the producer's cut, where you see it had something else on the side of the band. I forgot. Right. But yeah, one of those cuts. And there was a difference there too with the kid that has his blood dripping down. One of them was in the producer's cut, I think the kid was singing a song about that or something, It's Raining Red or something weird. But something definitely, I remember something different about that for sure. But either way, that's a weird scene and a weird character. But you know what? Let me look this up real quick, because there's one character who I love in this movie. And, yes, Mrs. Blankenship. I don't know why, but, I just get such a kick out of that, character and that performance, and, the twist with her. She's this, hard of hearing, old lady that just kind of, or is she hard of hearing? I don't know. Maybe she's just playing everybody, and she's taking everything in around her. And she's this sweet old lady, and she has this weird scene where she says, "Little Mikey Myers, I heard the voice," and whatever, and this kid hears the voice too, and she's just kind of this I mean, I think I would like her anyways, just as this weird old lady character, but then there's this reveal that she's in this cult. And she I think she pulls a knife out on Kara or something. It's just so
so weird. Yeah,
it's so weird. But for whatever reason, I don't know. I think I kind of got a kick out of her. But sadly, I mean, what's that tell you about the rest of the movie? If that's that's the one thing I could kind of think of. I didn't like the Strodes either. Unfortunately, I don't even think.
I just think it was a weird way to go again. Return to the Strodes. I'm it doesn't.
No.
If it's not going to be Laurie Strode, then what's the point, right?
Sure. And even the ones that were supposed to be kind of the good ones or whatever just weren't anything really special. And that's one place where this movie's lacking for sure. I also think, sadly, Donald Pleasance is great. I always say, he's a great actor, and Dr. Loomis is a great character. But I don't think he had anything to work with here.
Yeah. I was a little sad that this was his last movie.
Yeah, me too.
I felt a little bad about that.
You know what, though, Meep? I feel the same way, but I'm well, there's either this or Fatal Frames, right? What? I don't know. I get a huge kick out of Fatal Frames, don't get me wrong. It's one of the greatest comedies of all time. Unintentionally, but it's hilarious. It's way more watchable than this movie. But as far as his final performance, at least it was Dr. Loomis, because for a lot of people, even myself for a long time, like, that's what I knew him as.
Right.
And every time I'd see him in something else, like Prince of Darkness or whatever, it's like, oh, cool, Dr. Loomis is back. It wasn't until like I got a little bit older and like I like watched something, from the 60s or whatever and be like, oh, wow, there he is again. And there he is again. Like, he had this really prolific career. But I do feel like for, maybe our generations, like he's Dr. Loomis. So
right.
He deserved to go out on a better movie than this, but at least like it was that role was kind of like his last role.
Right. That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but like it's so weird, and like I mentioned the ending of the theatrical cut, how you just hear him screaming and you see the mask. The producer's cut, like the Thorn tattoo like appeared on his forearm. I swear to God, I thought I was hallucinating. Like I thought I watched all these movies pretty late at night because in my house I don't get the TV until everyone goes to sleep, and then I can watch what I want to watch. But it's like I swear, like I like had to rewind it to like to make sure like I didn't miss something or whatever. It was just so weird, and then I don't know. Maybe it's better that wasn't the ending that everyone saw, but
of which bad choice? Like, which is the lesser of two evils? Like
exactly. Like it's like
that's basically the two versions. Like I don't know which is worse because one's maybe which one is shorter. Maybe
it's funny because when we wanted to like talk about that's a great point actually. The runtime I think is the tiebreaker, And then when we wanted to talk about these movies, and I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to watch the producer's cut. This is going to maybe, it might be like finding a new Halloween sequel that I love. I don't know why, but like, let's just say, like, for example, like it could have been that good because I heard it was so different and so much better, or whatever. But like, it's just like there's no universe or no version where like this was a good idea. And I was going to ask you actually, do you know why there was such a large gap between Halloween 5 and 6? Because I was a little like unsure like how that played out. It's know
weird because they let the rights expire and then there was a bidding war to get the rights, and it was between New Line and Dimension, and of course Weinstein and his Power One. So it would have been more fun if it went to New Line, because then it could have been something else, maybe.
Yeah,
possibly,
definitely. Yeah. Well, yeah.
The New Line would have had Freddy and.
Again, though, like I don't know. Yeah, for sure. But like, what would the natural progression be? You know what I mean? Like. Again, like I don't blame Halloween 5 for a lot of its flaws because I think Halloween 4 didn't give it a lot of wiggle room. As much as I love Halloween 4, again, there was like not a lot of places to kind of continue that story, so they kind of came up with their own thing and threw in like, hey, we're gonna set up the next one great because here's this Man in Black.
Yeah, it was almost like a placeholder, for the next one. Well, like we could continue this or not. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like it could go anywhere from here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I can't imagine. Well, let me ask you this actually, because you mentioned New Line and you mentioned Freddy and. I kind of think about like where these franchises went in the 90s, and like I guess the early 90s. Yeah, and like the early 90s more because I think post Scream things kind of changed a little bit, and I think H2O kind of benefited from that, and that's another movie I've like had like a interesting relationship with. Like I kind of like I loved it when I was younger because that was like my generation's kind of. Halloween or whatever, and it totally fit into the vibe of those movies I was really digging at that time. And then when I grew older, I kind of like, looked down on it and was like, oh, I only love the original Halloween now, whatever. But like, so like, putting all those aside, when you think about it, like, okay. No, it doesn't work because I was about to say like this might be like the better one, but I totally forgot about New Nightmare, which I love. Yeah, so never mind. I was gonna say compared to like Jason Goes to Hell and stuff like that, like at least this was still like kind of like a Halloween movie. They just added some weird stuff to it, but nah, it doesn't really hold up, unfortunately, because New Nightmare was great. What are your thoughts on that one? Do you like New Nightmare?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of that movie. I love
Awesome, man. Because I think the Stereo Continue guys were kind of down on it, if I remember. I don't think they've covered it, but
I'm a big fan of New Nightmare. To me, a great film.
I love it. Yeah,
25th. It just celebrated its 25th anniversary this month, and
nice, and, dude, it's great, man. I mean, well, who knows? Maybe they wouldn't have gone all meta in that sense because it's not a supernatural series, or at least it wasn't. But I wonder if New Line could have done something better, with Michael Myers.
I just think they needed to develop whatever ideas more, and instead of getting an idea, rushing it out to production, and then meddling with it, that's always a bad combination.
The meddling is definitely
that happened a lot in Dimension movies. This is not the only production. This is like the beginning of like many. Well, I think even the Hellraiser 4, there was a lot of meddling in that. There was a lot of meddling in a lot of their horror productions, and it shows. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It is unfortunate because they're, it's a great franchise, and I can't think of a lot of franchises that, again, for me, like 1 through 4, like we're all like, this is awesome. Like, every franchise seems like it has like at least a few missteps early, and then maybe kind of gets its legs or whatever in other spots. But like, this one just kind of went to such weird places, and again, it makes it interesting to talk about. Like, it makes it interesting to kind of like look into. Maybe more so than other movies that like did kind of stay consistent, but maybe bland. I don't know. Yeah, I've watched this one. Well, no, that's not true. I've watched this and Halloween 8. I've watched the least of all the Halloween movies, and
this and which one?
I'm sorry. Halloween 8, the Resurrection. I think I've watched Resurrection more than this one.
Oh, sure.
But I don't like either.
No. I watched that for the first time in a long time, maybe last year or something. And I mean, that's I don't know. That's a whole other podcast.
Another misguided movie.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, again, it's like there's certain things that work and certain things that are kind of fun about these movies, and how bad they are, and even as entertaining in a way. They're not. I don't know, but it's not fun. That's the problem. That's where it kind of loses me this time. And that's why maybe I keep kind of associating it with like the Rob Zombie movies, which I'm not into. And I only suffered through once, but I just like I feel like this is not where the franchise should have gone. And Halloween 5 sure left things like pretty vague and introduced some kind of weird elements and stuff, but they could have done whatever they wanted like 6 years later. They really could have gone anywhere with it.
They could have, true.
Such a missed opportunity.
They decided to continue with the Thorn thing and then take it down that route, but oh well. What could have been?
Do you have a favorite kill from this one, Meep? You were mentioning favorite kills earlier.
Yeah, favorite kill. There's not a lot of memorable ones. It's like you mentioned the mean-spirited ones I'm not really into.
No,
I guess
same.
The dad gets stabbed and electrocuted and his head explodes, which is kind of ridiculous, but memorable, I guess. That's about it.
It's weird because, like, I was gonna say the dad sure like is memorable at least. Like, I kind of like remember how he dies when I remember this movie at least, which is more than a lot of other characters. But like, I thought the mom's death was so weird in this because it's kind of like visually, I kind of like the whole like sheets hanging out to dry and stuff, because that's same as like the first Halloween when he's outside of Laurie's mirror and saying like that's just kind of like a cool visual, especially when someone's kind of running through that and they're getting like disoriented. But like, I can't get over like the fact that she just runs into her own yard and doesn't know what direction to go. Like,
she's all disoriented.
Yeah, like I get such a kick out of that. Like I think she like turns towards the fence first or something and tries to go back and like I don't know. Like it's just so.
Well, anyways, then she gets killed. Presumably, he chops her head off with the axe or whatever it was, and then like then somehow the sheets end up in the washing machine, the bloodied sheets. So I guess he decided to do some laundry. Michael Myers.
It's not her body because her body comes hanging down or something later, doesn't it? When
probably
Kara's like backing down the hall, doesn't her body like drop down?
That's right, it does.
Or something like, which is so weird because I was mixing it up with My Bloody Valentine, the remake of My Bloody Valentine, because I could have sworn she was in the washing machine.
Yeah,
but that's I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know. This movie.
Yep.
It's a head scratcher for sure.
Michael does laundry. All right, so business-wise, it was released on September 29th, 1995, so releasing it in September. I mean, at the very end of September, but still is a weird way to go. Subsequent movies, they started releasing them in August and July, which doesn't make any sense at all. So they're not summer movies. They are movies about October and the fall. It made $15 million somehow on a $5 million budget. Not great, but I guess enough for them to make a profit. I remember seeing it at the Cineplex Odeon Fort Worth Theater. I have a ticket stub right in front of me.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not proud that I saw it in the theater, but I did see it in the theater. You mentioned director Joe Chappelle did Phantoms for Dimension after this, so I guess they liked him enough to give him another movie. I wouldn't have personally hired the person, director, but maybe it's because he was, listening to many people, and that's how a movie sometimes goes wrong. You need you need a director who has a lot of vision.
Yeah.
Maybe that didn't happen in this movie, so they listened to a lot of people, so they thought maybe he would listen to them on Phantoms. And Phantoms, I think, turns out is a better movie. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's a better movie than this.
Sure.
And then he's since worked steadily. He still works steady on TV. So Joe Chappelle is a steady TV director, writer. Dan Farrens has done a lot of stuff. Most notably, he did the Crystal Lake Memories and Never Sleep Again documentaries. So he's definitely a big fan of all these major horror franchises. I happen to know him a little bit, and I provided him with some promotional material for Crystal Lake Memories, and I got a couple of credits on that doc, which is kind of cool because
nice.
It was those are good documentaries about those franchises. They're really long and they're very thorough, and I don't think Halloween received one.
I can't think of one.
And I guess Halloween is arguably the most checkered history of
for sure.
of those movies. And I mean, that's it. I mean, George Wilbur, he returned as a shape.
That's right. I was gonna say I liked him in Part 4. Like he was fine, but I mean, he's not the problem. I guess
he's not the problem. No.
Yeah,
definitely not. I'm gonna read off some lists from pals of the show. Let's see what their thoughts are on these three films, rather. Joseph Charlesworth. It was an idea that I honestly never liked from the start. Everyone loves to hate on Rob Zombie's remake, but I thought it was a worse idea than giving Michael Myers a backstory. I don't really see how Halloween 4 can be considered part of this trilogy, since it wasn't really introduced until Halloween 5 with the appearance of the Man in Black.
Yeah, we kind of alluded to that.
That's definitely true. Soren Feldfos Thompson. Halloween 4 has its moments, but oh sweet lord, these films are terrible. I'll stick to the trilogy of Halloween, Halloween 2, and H2O.
That's a good trilogy.
James Benge. I had never heard that expression, Thorn Trilogy. What is the Thorn part from? Also, I'm a huge fan of 6. Paul Rudd, woof. 4 and 5 always blur together.
Sure.
PJ Fernandez. 4 I love, 5 is okay. Danielle Harris is great in both. 6 is kind of all over the place, but the producer's cut is an improvement over the theatrical release.
Oh, okay.
My pal Chris Moore, I like 4 in bits of 5 and 6, but it's messy. And all the masks look like ass.
That's fair.
That's true. John Stoffer, slightly confusing, but I love it. Wish they would bring back the storyline.
Oh, that would be a twist.
There you go. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but it's...
Could you imagine if that's where they go with these Blumhouse ones?
Finally, the Thorn Trilogy. The Thorn continues. The Thorn saga continues.
Man.
And then, like, Damien Thorn Enterprises is somehow in it. And,
oh, dude, you're onto something, man.
Thorn's big.
Someone's got to steal these ideas. You should have put it out there.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Bednar's, I like the idea, something different. If you can't match the original, why not go crazy? Follow through was god-awful, though. It's like, I like it, but it's shit.
Yeah, no, well said.
Someone named Mike Alishan, I think you might know him.
Yeah.
I think time has been kind to this trilogy and looks much better today than how it did back then, given what's come after. And that's pretty fair.
Yeah, no, I totally know where he's coming from, because that's a conversation we probably had before. And as bad as those looked, we did get to some new lows later.
And my pal David Assassino, for some reason, I still can't really get excited about Part 4 except when it gets weird and turns into Haddonfield Hillbilly Revenge. Haddonfield Hillbilly Vigilante Hootenanny in the last 20 minutes. It's kind of a slow remake of the original film with the worst Michael mask that looks like a lumpy marshmallow.
Oh, dude. Come on, David. I love David, but come on, man.
Part 5 had become one of my favorites for its goofier train wreck qualities, and some of the twists are genuinely surprising. It's kind of like Friday the 13th Part 5 of the series. I hated Part 6 when it came out, but I really enjoyed it on 35mm last year. It's a lot more artfully shot than I remembered, and the 90s grudge qualities have become kind of adorable. From all the flannel everywhere and the distorted guitar and the Halloween theme. Plus, man. Tommy Doyle has a divine magnet on his refrigerator in the producer's cut. That's so cool. I remember seeing that in this viewing. I don't think I ever noticed it before, but Tommy's room is kind of crazily art directed. Like, there's lots of weird random things like that, like a divine magnet. And,
that's funny.
Check out his rooms.
Yeah,
he just threw everything in there.
That's interesting, man. That's something to look for.
Tommy probably would spend a lot of time in New York City at the Angelica movie theater watching art movies and cult movies, midnight movies, and maybe there is room for Tommy to be an interesting character. But I'm gonna be honest with my thoughts on the new Halloween announcement that Anthony Michael Hall playing Tommy is not a good way to go. But I haven't found Anthony Michael Hall likable since the 80s. Like I liked him in the 80s movies, but then once he started playing these jerks, like the jockey jerk and Edward Scissorhands, and
I was about to say that's kind of how I always see him now.
I look at him like that now, and I just don't want to see him as Tommy. But maybe he'll prove us all wrong and be like,
well, maybe he's a jerk now. What do we know?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, maybe he is. So.
Yeah.
So that's that. Anything else you want to say about this trilogy?
Well, I guess just gosh, I mean, let me ask you this: as far as continuity, and again, I don't think either of us are guys who really get too bogged down with that or care too much about that, but given the options, Halloween 1 and 2 followed by 4, 5, and 6, or Halloween 1 and 2 followed by H2O and Resurrection, and I guess the third option I'll just add now off the top of my head, Halloween followed by Halloween, 2018. And whatever's coming, we don't know. It's what's behind.
I'm gonna off the top of my head, Halloween and the new Halloween don't sit well together for me.
Yeah,
so I'll discard that. It just doesn't fit. I like the idea of Halloween 1, 2, and 7 the most.
Yeah, but then I included Resurrection in that, though. That's not an option. Because, see, for me, it would be Halloween 1, 2, and 4. And then if you stop there, it's like, wow, what a series, for me. But, like, I'm saying with the baggage, you got to take H2O with Resurrection, or you got to take 5 with 6.
I can't do 5 and 6 together. I know they're, like, tied together now.
It's so weird. It's so weird how tied together they are, because they're so different. Like, totally. Yep. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know.
I don't like that.
I don't know. You know what? I'll let you off the hook with that, because I don't even know what my answer would be. There is no right answer there.
Really,
Halloween 3. Halloween 3
4 and 5 feel like their own thing. Like, they really don't feel connected to the other movies. Like, even though they are technically connected to the 6th movie and possibly like the first movie, but I just don't feel that. I just feel like they're 4 and 5 really feel like of their time.
Sure, they're like kind of their own like slasher franchise, almost like a mini franchise in there that just happened to be Halloween and Michael Myers. But yeah, I can see that. But it's weird because again, like that whole Man in Black thing that ties 5 and 6 together. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't work, and I shouldn't blame 5 for where 6 goes. So
and just it was a weird thing to throw in, but then we love Friday the 13th Part 5, and it has Roy the ambulance driver. So what do we know?
Hey, speak for yourself, man. I don't know. I don't know about loving that one.
These franchises definitely go in goofy places and weird places.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, like they all have something to enjoy about them. I think. Right. It's you just go along for the ride. Don't take it so seriously.
Exactly.
Like, if you're like me and you're weird with like you mentioned as far as the franchises before, you said you're kind of more into Jason and Freddy. Now, like growing up, I was 100% Jason, and Freddy was like second, but it was like a pretty big gap. Like I wasn't really a Michael Myers guy till I got older, and now like I almost feel like I like Halloween more because of how good the good ones are. I don't know about consistently overall, but like but it's just like, what, like to me, like I was saying, like I don't care about continuity. I don't care about being like a completionist. Like I can have part 1, 2, and 6 and 8 or whatever of like a franchise on my shelf, and I'm happy. And the other ones are fine. Like they're, you take them or leave them, and like that's just kind of where I'm at now. Like I don't get worked up about the ones that I don't care for as much, and like who knows, maybe. One of these Halloween movies coming out will be great, and
maybe it'll satisfy us like some of these middle sequels do. I don't know. We'll see.
Like exactly, and like I won't care if I have like the middle one of this trilogy or whatever, and like I like it a lot, and like I'll pick it up or whatever, But it's just just for what we've gotten so far. It's a shame. It's a shame, but I do like looking at this as a trilogy. Again, I can't remember who it was who said they never heard of that Thorn Trilogy name. I swear we're not the ones that came up with that.
No, we're definitely not. There's been even podcasts about it before. I think
but it's interesting because I know you've covered the Friday the 13th series before, but like that has like the whole Tommy Jarvis trilogy kind of, like in like a weird way. So like maybe there's something to that, and but I guess Nightmare on Elm Street, even though they recast Tommy too, but that kind of had some recurring characters and Dream Warrior stuff going on for a little bit, and so like I don't know, like maybe we shouldn't be so hard on these franchises, just trying to kind of keep the train going, but unfortunately the train eventually got derailed here, at least. So. But it was fun to talk about.
It was fun to talk about it. Thank you for bringing it up as a topic. I had a lot of fun. It was fun celebrating Halloween with you, and we'll see what we come up with next for number whatever.
Sounds good, Meep. Definitely,
Sounds great. All right. We'll talk soon. and see what's next. Thank you guys for supporting the show. More bonus episodes to come in the future. Thank you guys again. And thank you, Ara. We'll be talking soon. Take care.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, you take care too.
Ciao for now.
I'm your boogeyman. That's what I am. I'm here to do whatever I can. Be it early morning, late afternoon, or at midnight. It's never too soon to wanna please you, to wanna keep you, to wanna do it all for you. I wanna be your brother boy. I wanna be the one you love most of all. Oh yeah. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. Turn me on. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. I do what you want. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. Turn me on. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. I do what you want. I'm your boogeyman. That's what I am. I'm here to do whatever I can. Be it early morning, late afternoon, or at midnight. Oh, it's never too soon to wanna take you, to wanna hold you. I wanna give my all to you, and I want you to completely understand where I'm at and where I am. Oh yeah. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. Turn me on. I'm the boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman.
Mark. Action.
Wendy, tell me about your role of playing Tina. How would you describe her, and what kind of a character is she? Tell me about her.
Well, Tina, and it's sort of, you have to say, like, me playing Tina is like, you know, taking all those things in me and putting them out, all the wildness and all the kind of rebelliousness, but yet total fun, and putting them into one person. You know, you take all this stuff and like put it there, and you know, and you've got your wild bits, and you've got your very generous bits, but you also got this person that wants like attention. You know, she's just like loves to be the center of attention and loves to like have people watch her, and that's why she loves to dress crazy and like do all this stuff and run around and scream and yell and stuff like that. But she's also really smart and really responsible and really caring and really generous, you know. And so I would say it's a good catch for a role, as far as like being able to show so many things and do so many things with her.
And tell me a little bit about the scene where you confront the shape, Mr. Michael Myers. Tell me about how you
Where I confront the shape, it's I think at that point it's like the most giving thing that she can do, and she is just suddenly becoming the hero, you know, a hero for this little girl. You know, she's suddenly like, she sees him about to kill Jamie, and it's like, bang, her instinct takes over, and she just like runs in there and like says, no way, this isn't going to happen. And all of a sudden she realizes that it's her life. That's the only way. That's what she has to sacrifice. You know, I think that for the thing about me is that I never realize when I'm with the shape until the very end. I never even know like that anything's wrong. It's always like, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden it's like, bang, all this stuff happens. And like, it's like one after the other. And then, and so there's no time finally for her to think about it. There's no time for her to plan. She just has to do whatever's in her heart. And it proves that her heart is very big.
Tell me a little bit about your background. You went to the high school of performing arts.
Yes.
And what did you study there?
Oh, well, at the High School of Performing Arts, I studied drama. I was a drama major, and I was there for 3 years. And I also studied academics, but it was like our day was divided in half. We just studied, I mean, it was really wild because you're in high school, but you're studying all the things that people would study in college and learning about what it's like just to work together and stuff like that.
And this is your first film.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you prepare for this film in any way, in a different way than you prepared for some of your television roles?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that I have to say that for this, I just did a little more work on, I think, on me and finding the things in me. I mentioned that before because it's, in television a lot of times there's a very, you have to be a certain way in television, and you have more freedom in film. So for film, I can look for the things in me and like play with them and like mold the character in a much more unusual way maybe than I would if I were preparing for a television role, because there's a certain set of standards that you have to have when you're doing television, or else the wide audience wouldn't understand it. And I mean, this is a horror movie, so there has to be all those facets to this horror movie too. But this character in particular, I think, is different than other characters in horror movies, and just her sense of fun and values and like craziness, wildness, and like rebelliousness. She's going to go on and do something new and exciting,
And the last question is, tell me about working with Danielle Harris.
Oh God, she's amazing. She's like a 45-year-old, 12-year-old. She's intense. She's an incredible child. I love her, and I couldn't have asked for a better person to work with, because she gives me all the things that I need as an actress, because she's so just a very beautiful person. And so it really helps that I like her, in my real life, because I can love her in the movie more, and I can make that relationship better. We have, and that's what's really good about it. And she's just amazing. I mean, I'm so shocked. She's like has so many. She's like so much more experienced than I am. And here I am, 11 years older than she is, and she knows like all this stuff, and she knows all the jargon, and I'm like, she's great. I mean, she's to me just a mystery in a way. And how does a person get like this?